So welcome back guys, we are back with another interesting story which is on, what if Edward returned as Anthony Cullen to find Bella? So let's get started. BPOV. My name is Isabella Swan. But call me Bella. I've lived in Forks, WA for all of my life. Oh, you've never heard of Forks? Not surprising. Let's just say that it is basically the most wet and rainy place in the world. Alright, I'm exaggerating, but it's pretty close. I live with my dad, in the same house for 16 years. My dad, Charlie, is the chief of police here in Forks. My mom, Renee, lives in Jacksonville, Florida. Mom and dad got a divorce when I was about 2 years old. From then until I was 11 I spent my entire summer, Christmas, and spring break there. I loved spending all that time with my mom and I really miss her. But things changed. What changed you ask? Edward Masson. Blank, underscore, blank. Edward. I screamed as I ran towards him. I just got back from spending Christmas break in Jacksonville. I only go there Christmas and 2 weeks in the summer now. And bless him for waiting at my house to welcome me home. I missed you so much. I said, nearly tackling him. I missed you too. But calm down, you almost gave me a heart attack, he said jokingly. When I was finally deemed calm, Edward pulled me in for a kiss. Edward is the best thing that has ever happened to me. When we started middle school, we became the best of friends. How? Don't ask. Why? No clue. It just happened. Usually when someone asks us one of those two questions, we just say that Edward came up to me the first day of junior high and said, just like he would if he were in kindergarten, "Hi, my name is Edward, do you want to be best friends?" And then we walk away laughing. When he started his freshman year, he asked me out. Edward is a year older than me, which makes it even more surprising that we became friends just like that. I was pulled from my reminiscing by a certain someone who started shaking me. Hey, Earth to Bella, bells, wakey, wakey, Isabella, what? Oh sorry, you know, I seem to remember you a little more alert than this. Has Jacksonville gotten into your head and taken over? He asked smirking. I playfully punched him. No. And have you been watching those freaky sci-fi movies about aliens who take over humans' bodies again? I had to do something while you were gone. He answered innocently. Excuses, excuses, I laughed. Edward laughed with me and said, I'm sorry Bella, but I really have to get home. Your layover was longer than expected. He laughed again, kissed me on the cheek, and jumped in his car to go home. Have fun in Port Angeles, I said as he started his car. Thanks. Love you, he said driving off. Love you too, I called. Asterisk 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 asterisk. I was almost done cooking dinner when Charlie got home, a couple hours after Edward had left. Hi Dad, I missed you, I said cheerfully as he walked in the door. Oh hi bells. How was Jacksonville? He answered awkwardly. He seemed uncomfortable for some unknown reason. Same, wet, buggy, humid Jacksonville, I answered, ignoring his weird behavior. That's good. So how's your mother? Same. Dad, what's wrong? Hard day at work. He seemed to have to think out what he was going to say next, so I waited patiently for him to assemble his thoughts. Finally he sighed and told me to sit down. Bella, sometimes in life things happen and we don't know why, they just do and, he paused, not wanting to continue. Things happen, I prompted. Bella, he took a deep breath. Edward and his family got in a car crash on their way to Port Angeles. Their car slipped on some black ice, they lost control, and went into the woods. Oh my gosh, are they okay? They can survive that kind of crash, Charlie said quietly. What do you mean? I asked, the tears already flowing. Bella, he's gone. Edward's dead. BPOV. 8 months later. I didn't know what I wanted, because I wanted so many things. I wanted to be with Edward. I wanted to look in the endless green of his eyes again. To hear his laugh, which was more beautiful than the most perfect instrument. I wanted to have him wrap his arms around me and tell me that everything was okay. At times, I wanted to scream. I wanted to get away from all the looks people were giving me. The looks that said, "We feel sorry for you," and the looks that said, "Get over it." It was just a high school romance. I wanted to get away from the sympathetic looks and the looks full of pity. I wanted to get away from the people who they were talking about me behind my back, when I can actually hear them. To get away from them when they are caught and the guilty looks that come with. I wanted to get away from the idiots that keep trying to comfort me. And then I wanted to be numb. I wanted to be in my own perfect world. I wanted to get away from it all. I didn't want to feel anything. I know my emotions keep contradicting themselves. But it's what comes with being a teenager. My world was crashing down. Really, what's the point of anything anymore? Bella, I have to go to work now, Charlie said quietly. Ever since that day I got back from Jacksonville, my dad has been dealing with a lot. For one, the homicide rate in the area has skyrocketed. Another, he has to deal with a heartbroken, moody teenager. Last, he's searching for Edward Masson's missing body. The day of the accident, my dad never was at the crash site too long. He just hurried home to break the news to me, because they were 99% sure that whoever was found would be dead. And it was true, except only 2 bodies were found and 3 samples of DNA were found. Since then, my dad and the best team of investigators Forks Police Department have been searching for something that just isn't there. No trace of anything that could even be considered evidence was found. But my dad won't give up, and not just for my sake, though that's a big part of it. Elizabeth, Edward Sr., and my dad were, well, I guess you could call them best friends. He was almost as devastated as I was about their death. Charlie even liked Edward. I don't think he would've chosen anyone else to be his daughter's boyfriend. He probably won't stop searching until they force him to stop. I have never told him this, but I really appreciate Charlie being there for me. I couldn't have asked for a better father. He may be quiet and not that good with expressing his feelings, but I know he loves me and he knows I love him. But even the greatest father in the world couldn't save me from what I have to face tomorrow. High school. The first day of my junior year. It wouldn't be so bad if everyone treated me the same way they did before. I've always gotten good grades. Avenue a lot of friends, and I even get along with the teachers pretty well. But who want to go to school when the locker next to yours is empty? When there is a missing seat at your lunch table? When the reason for you to smile, laugh, breathe, and live is gone? BPOV. Just ignore them. They have nothing better to do, Angela reassured me. People kept looking at me. Not blatantly staring, just looking, but it still bothered me. After the incident, I didn't really talk to anyone. When I did say something, it was usually when my temper flared and I would bite people's heads off. The only people I would seldomly talk to were Renee, Charlie, and my best friend, Angela. I used to have lots of friends, Mike, Eric, Jessica, Tyler, Lauren, but I stopped talking to them and they stopped talking to me and we lost contact. Angela, bless her, stood by me. She dealt with my mood swings and always was there to supply the shoulder I needed to cry on. Even though she's only had one boyfriend, and her and Ben are still going strong, she still sympathized and made me feel better. When I asked her how she did it, she simply stated that she just imagines what she would feel like if she had lost Ben. To the rest of the world, I had shut down, and people stopped trying to comfort me, to console me. Bella, Angela called, pulling me out of my reverie. We had been in a comfortable silence the whole morning, and at lunch she talked mostly to Ben. She didn't continue, so I answered, yes. Did you hear about the new kids? No, I said, mildly interested. New kids on Forks? Yeah, the Cullens. They just moved here from Los Angeles. Their father is a doctor and is going to be working at the hospital here in Forks. He and his wife adopted them all. You know it's something big if Angela Weber is gossiping. How many? I asked, taking real interest now, as we stopped at my locker to switch my books. I'm not sure. I obviously have not had any classes with them or I would have no tea. There's 5 of them, she said, her tone astounded. I had thought it was their number that had shocked her, but it was far from it. There in the hallway, standing by their lockers next to another, was a group of breathtakingly beautiful people. There were 2 girls and 3 boys. One of the girls had long, wavy, golden hair, was tall, and had a beautiful figure. One that is ideal in materialistic America. The other girl was short, thin, and had black hair that was cut short and spiked. Of the boys, one was lean, muscular, and had wavy blonde hair. The other was huge, the tallest of all the Cullens. He had dark brown curly hair and muscles. So big that he made your subconscious think, don't get this guy mad. The last was the shortest boy, but still very tall. He was lanky, but still muscular, looked to be the youngest. And had messy bronze-colored hair. All of them were different, yet all of them were the same. They all had perfect features, like they just came from plastic surgery. Which might be believable, because they all had bruises under their eyes. Subtle, yet still noticeable, as if they were recovering from a nose job. Their eyes were golden brown, topaz even, and despite the fact that there was no relation between them, they all shared the unique color. And the most bizarre thing about the Cullens was that, although just coming from Los Angeles, one of the sunniest places in the United States, their skin was chalky white. It looked abnormal, yet beautiful at the same time. Here I am, staring with my mouth open at these 5 strangers, when I was just complaining about people simply looking at me. How hypocritical can I get? Wrong as it might be, I couldn't look away. Especially from the bronze-haired boy. Maybe it was because of a similarity to a certain person, but something drew me towards him. Come on, Aang. Let's get to class, I said, tearing my attention away from the exquisite family. I usually don't stoop this low, but I need some dirt on them and I need it fast. Next class. Biology. BPOV. When I entered biology, I went straight to Jessica's table. If anyone knew anything about the new kids, it would be her. Hey, Jessica, I said, interrupting her constant chatter with her lab partner, Katie. Oh, hi Bella, she responded, surprised. What do you want? She didn't say it menacingly. She was probably just surprised I was talking to her. I was wondering if you could tell me anything about the new kids. They seem really interesting. Sure, Katie and I were just talking about that, she exclaimed, her features animating. So what have you got for me? I asked, smiling. I kind of missed Jessica's easygoing nature. And for the whole 15 minutes before class started, Jessica filled me in on the Cullens. So you've seen them, right? She questioned. Yes, I nodded. Just before I came into the room. Good, because I don't think I could describe how gorgeous they all are, she giggled. They came from LA. Can you believe it? I don't know why they would want to move here. I mean, all it does is rains, nothing exciting. I think Mrs. Cullen wanted to move to a small town to, get away from it all, Katie interjected. Sucks for them, Jessica continued. The blonde girl is Rosalie Hale and the blonde guy is Jasper Hale, her twin brother. The short one is Alice, the curly-haired boy is Emmett, and the last is Anthony Cullen. Anthony, that was Edward's middle name. Great, now I sound like one of those love-sick girls people laugh at in a romantic comedy. Okay, I am a love-sick girl, and if this was a movie, people would be laughing. They are rich too, Katie added. I mean, I'm not sure, but look at the facts. The short one, Alice. I could have sworn that I saw the exact same outfit she's wearing today in the cover of Vogue last month. Plus, the BMW they came to school in probably cost more than my house. She cried. Gosh, exaggerate much. And also, there's this rumor going around that they are all together, Jessica said. Her voice lowering, as in boyfriend, girlfriend. I questioned. Maybe I had heard her wrong, or, together, meant something different. Exactly like that, Katie confirmed. Eric told me that he heard from Ben. Who heard it from Austin? Who heard it from Lauren? Who heard it from Tyler? That Mike saw Mr. Varner freaking out and telling the principal that we needed tighter PDA regulations because, quote, Mr. Cullen and Ms. Hale were getting steamy in the janitor's closet. All right, class, take your seats so we can get started, Mr. Mason commanded. Let's dive into new school year by learning about the classification of plants, Mr. Cullen. You may take a seat right there next to Ms. Swan. Now, the broadest classification of plants is if they are vascular or non-vascular, Mr. Mason continued as if he had not been interrupted. Making his way towards our table was Anthony Cullen. His eyes were cautious and he was taking very slow, very deliberate breaths. As he got closer, his brow furrowed and his breathing decelerated. He eventually took his seat next to me and it looked as if his breathing had stopped altogether now. He had his chair to the furthermost end of the lab table and he was staring straight ahead. His jaw was clenched, his posture rigid, and he was holding onto the tabletop so hard, I thought he might break it. What was wrong with him? I wasn't that bad of a neighbor. His behavior was so strange that I found myself staring at him, again, waiting for him to move, or breathe, or blink, or do anything to show that he wasn't immobilized. He finally noticed me staring and emotions I didn't expect flashed in his eyes. I would expect anger, for gaping at his unusual actions. Maybe even embarrassment, if he didn't realize his behavior was that obvious. No, instead, his eyes were filled with sadness, regret, and for a moment love. His whole body relaxed and his expression softened. He unclenched his jaw and his hands from the table. Still, he kept his chair far away and his eyes were glued on Mr. Mason, but at least he looked like an average focused student for the rest of the hour. When the bell rang, Anthony Cullen got up, smiled at me apologetically, and left class without a word. BPOV. Really, I don't see why I had to go to the nurse's office. I mean, I just got smacked in the head with a volleyball. No harm done. But then of course, I had to go and trip afterwards, so then Coach Clapp thought I was showing signs of vertigo. Don't they know I am just a klutz? At least I got out of gym. The silence of the vacant hallways was then broken by a bellowing laugh. It's la tua cantante Emmett, I mean it. I heard a voice shout. When I rounded the corner I saw Anthony and Emmett Cullen having an intense conversation. Well, at least Anthony was intense. If it really is that, then you definitely wouldn't have been able to stand it, Emmett responded jokingly. This is serious, and I'm serious. Stop laughing. Calm down, bro. Why are you making such a big deal about this? Who is it anyway? Emmett questioned. Anthony closed his eyes and pinched the bridge of his nose. Then in a dark voice he muttered, Bella Swan. I'm sorry, what was that? I couldn't hear you, Emmett teased. Stop being stupid, Emmett. I know you heard me, Anthony groaned. All I know, he continued, is that I can't stand being around her. What, am I really that bad? I shrieked, unable to contain my anger. You don't even know me. I ranted as I strode towards him. No, Anthony cried, I didn't mean it like that. Meanwhile, beside us, Emmett was almost rolling on the floor laughing. Do you really hate me that much? I questioned. Of course not, Anthony whispered, pain evident in his eyes. He smacked Emmett upside the head and walked swiftly out the door and towards the parking lot. Almost immediately, Emmett followed suit, but not before chuckling at my dumbfounded expression. What was with those Cullens? Were they all, what's the word? Crazy, psycho, insane, blank, blank. I didn't know where I was. I was sitting in a perfectly cleared meadow, with wild flowers growing everywhere. In the distance, I could hear the trickle of a flowing stream. There were no clouds to cover the stars in the sky, which was gradually getting lighter. And I wasn't alone. I was in Anthony Cullen's arms, my head nestled in the crook of his neck. His eyes were gazing into mine and he was smiling down at me. We sat in silence, enjoying each other's company, as morning approached. Suddenly, his eyes were troubled and he stood up. I stood up also, frowning. He cradled my face in his hands and kissed me. Our lips moved together easily, naturally. Too soon, he pulled away. I'm sorry, he whispered, agony clear in his voice. Then he was gone, and the sun shone bright throughout the meadow. I woke up startled. It was a dream. Just a dream. I chanted in my head. It was the 5th time in a row I have had this dream all week. I had this nagging feeling in the back of my head that maybe the dream meant something. Maybe my subconscious was trying to tell me something. Why else would it keep repeating itself? For the whole week Anthony avoided me as much as he was capable of. I never saw him in the hallways. Never saw him in the lunch room. And after school, he was gone before I got out the door. In biology, the one class he was forced to see me and be my partner, he sat as far away from me as possible. If he did have to interact with me he was polite and civil. I suppose that is a step up from the first day we met. But I didn't think it could get worse than that. He ignored me and I ignored him, that's just how it was. I couldn't get him out of my mind. Some of the littlest things he did, just baffled me. Like the times when his calm, neutral mask slips and he looks infuriated with me. And then there are the times it's the exact opposite and he looks at me like I am the most important person in the world to him. Or the times when he does something that makes him look so much like Edward. Anthony reminds me of him all the time. So much, I might even be falling for him. Is that what I'm trying to tell myself? BPOV. The weekend was uneventful. I did my chores around the house, got ahead on my homework, and wrote a lengthy email to Renee, assuring her that I was happy and content. That wasn't a total lie. I was happy as I could ever be. As for the latter, there was only one thing that I wanted. I wanted to get Anthony Cullen out of my head. I wanted all of my suspicions to be true or false, so could go back to getting through the day without feeling anything. So at school, I would talk to him. I would find out as he hates me, or likes me, or I couldn't even let myself begin to hope for the other possibility. I mean, what are the odds? Blank, underscore, blank. I entered the cafeteria contemplating what I would say to him once I got to biology, when someone tapped me on the shoulder. When I turned to see who it was and I almost fainted. Anthony Cullen. Hello, he said, smiling slightly. I couldn't speak, I was too surprised that he was talking to me. After a while, he raised an eyebrow at me, waiting for a response. Hi, I replied lamely. He laughed a quiet musical laugh. Would you like to eat lunch with me today? Sure. He smiled one of the most beautiful crooked smiles I had ever seen and walked away to claim a table. I purchased my food and hesitantly walked towards him. I don't know why I was so worried. I had meant to speak with him anyf. I could talk more freely without the teacher interrupting me in biology. But maybe I had been counting on that. Maybe I was hoping that if the conversation went bad, Mr. Mason would start class right in time. Oh well, too late now. Are you going to sit down or just stand there the whole time? Anthony chuckled. Sorry. I flushed and took the seat directly across from him. I guess my mind I didn't realize that my feet had made their way across the lunchroom already. We ate. Well, I ate and he sat quietly for a couple minutes until Anthony broke the silence. I apologize for my behavior last week, he said sadly. You know, you don't have to pretend to like me, I said, wondering what his response would be. I'm not pretending, he said fiercely. His eyes were smoldering mine, as if he was trying to communicate without speaking. I guess I shouldn't assume, but you never talk to me. You don't even say hi. You're right, you shouldn't assume. He paused and continued jokingly, and if greeting you every day, first thing in the morning, will make you feel better, I will. It would be nice, I exclaimed, laughing. He smiled. Bella, I truly am sorry. Can we start over? I'd like that, I answered. So are we friends now? He thought about that briefly, then said, I suppose. I frowned. Not that I don't want to. He reassured me quickly. I just was wondering if, well, maybe. He trailed off. Wondering if, I prompted, my curiosity flaring. I know we just met, and I completely understand if you don't want to. He paused and ran his fingers through his hair, making it more messy than it already was. He sighed and continued, would you like to go to a Paramore concert with me Friday night? I love Paramore. Of course I'll go with you. I exclaimed. Was it just a coincidence that he asked me if I wanted to go see my favorite band with him? The little voice in the back of my head said, no. Anthony's face lit up. Great. The concert is in Seattle, so we could leave right after school and go to eat at a restaurant there. Charlie would probably want to meet this boy I was taking a road trip to Seattle with. He would be happy that I would be going out though. I know he worries about me, even if he doesn't say anything. We don't have to leave right away if you don't want to, Anthony said nervously, running his fingers through his hair again. No, that's okay. I was just thinking. What? Well, I'm almost certain that my dad will want to meet you. He relaxed. I can always meet him before Friday. All right. What is a good day for you? Whenever, he said nonchalantly. I'll figure it out with Charlie then. I would tell him when he got home from work and give him time to warm up to the idea. Since this conversation was going better than I thought it would, it was time for my interrogations. So, Anthony, I started, you and your family moved here from Los Angeles. Yes, he answered, putting on a perfect poker face. You were adopted. He nodded. How long ago? When I was young, he said bluntly. What happened to your parents? I wasn't usually so direct, but I was getting nowhere here. He thought his answer over. Then his eyes smoldered and he said, "They died in a car crash." Although we were talking about his parents' untimely death, a small smile played on my face. He was telling me what I needed to hear. "When is your birthday? What's with all the questioning? If I'm going all the way to Seattle with someone, I would like some basic information on them," I answered innocently, though that was not at all the reason for the questioning. "Why don't you have your father do a background check on me then?" He smirked. "Maybe I will," I shot back. "We need to get to class," Anthony said as he stood up and started for the door. "Okay," I said, following him. Maybe a background check wasn't such a bad idea. BPOV. "So what are your brothers and sisters like?" I asked. I had been asking him all kinds of questions since we got in the car and started driving to Seattle. Simple ones mostly, like favorite color, favorite kind of music. Actually, the favorite music question became more complicated than it should have been. It couldn't be as simple as the one-word answer I asked for. No, instead, Anthony started comparing all the different genres of music and listing the pros and cons of each. Why settled between classical and rock music? All this week, I had been testing my theory about Anthony. That somehow, Anthony was an exact replica of Edward. I know what you're thinking. I'm overthinking everything. I'm making Anthony into who I want him to be. Or I've finally lost it. But I don't believe it is any of that. There's just something about him. How he talks to me like we have been best friends for years. How his crooked smile, the same one as Edward's might I add, makes my heart shudder and go into overdrive. How his presence relieves me of any stress or anxiety I feel. This kind of stuff does not happen in the course of a few days. These feelings don't just happen, they develop over time. I had been so absorbed in my thoughts that I didn't notice that Anthony hadn't answered my question. I tore my gaze away from the window I was looking out of and smiled at him apologetically. He smiled back. "Which one do you want me to start with?" I thought it over. "Emmett. Don't let his appearance fool you. He is the biggest teddy bear you would ever meet. Really, I can understand the bear part, but teddy bear, I just can't see." Anthony chuckled. "Of course. Quote, all right, Alice next. Well, she is a short, hyper, meddling, little pixie who you can't help but love." He looked at me. "You would be good friends with her. I have to warn you though. Please do. She loves to shop." "Ew." I grimaced. He laughed at my expression. He was so laid back and light-hearted today that it was contagious. I laughed along with him. "Tell me about Rosalie and Jasper now." "Rosalie can be vain and self-centered at times. But she loves her family and would do anything for them. Now, Jasper is a very quiet and reserved person, unlike his sister. He is extremely intelligent and is a good listener." "What are Carlisle and Esme like?" He didn't talk about them much, but when he did, he held them in the highest respect. "They are TWF, the most kind, compassionate people I have ever met." He answered without missing a beat. "You love them," I said as a statement. "I do. So what exactly happened to your parents?" I asked cautiously. I didn't want to upset him, but I needed to know his answer. His eyes darkened, becoming sad. "They died." He paused, his expression torn. "In a car crash," he said finally. He was staring straight into my eyes, judging my reaction. "I'm sorry," I said. But really my insides were rejoicing. He was telling me everything that I needed to hear. "It's okay." He smiled slightly. They weren't around that often. I turned my head away from him to hide my smile. Edward's parents were never home also. They loved him to death, obviously. They just couldn't get off work that much. "Can I ask you a question?" Anthony asked. "It's only fair." He continued without waiting for me to reply. "How many relationships have you been in?" His light mood had shifted. His eyes were penetrating. "One," I stated, wanting to get off of the subject. "Only one?" he questioned skeptically. I nodded. "Tell me about him," he demanded. I stayed silent. "It is a him, isn't it?" he teased. "I don't like to talk about it," I whispered. "We can talk about something else then," he said, dropping the subject, "like how we are supposed to get out of this traffic jam." I looked outside and there were cars everywhere. NA was moving and the police were trying to figure out a way to get the traffic flowing. Quick. Back out while you still can. I know another way to Seattle, I commanded Anthony. He did what I told him to do and started heading in the opposite direction. Turn left here, I told him. Now just follow the road here until we get to Seattle, I said triumphantly. Who says girls can't give directions? Are you sure we're going in the right direction? Anthony asked for the 12th time. Yes, I replied for the 12th time. Bella, it's been an hour. We've been driving in circles all this time and the truck is running low on gas. There are entire cars around and no civilization. Are you sure we're going in the right direction? Okay, fine. I surrendered. I could have sworn we were going the right way though. Quote, Anthony pulled over on a path in the woods. After 2 heartbeats of silence, Anthony said, come on. He got out of the car and started around T-pen my door. Where are we going? I asked as I stepped out of the car. Anthony shrugged his shoulders and started walking into the woods. Are you crazy? I called after him. Maybe. He called back. I ran into the woods to catch up with him. He stopped walking to wait for me. What if there are bears? I worried. They wouldn't be a problem. What if this is someone's private property? I highly doubt it. Well, what if I trip and sprain my ankle? Bella, would I let anything hurt you? I sighed. I couldn't see Anthony anymore. He disappeared into a thick part of the forest. Anthony, I'm over here. I passed through the trees and found myself standing in a beautiful meadow. Just like the one in my dream. He was sitting on the ground playing absent-mindedly with a blade of grass. Where are we? I asked as I went to sit down next to him. I'm not sure, he replied. It's nice though, don't you think? He nodded and scooted closer to me. He wrapped his arms around me and I wrapped my arms around him. We sat like that for an immeasurable amount of time. His name was Edward, I said, breaking the silence. BPOV. Anthony sat patiently waiting for the rest. We dated for about 2 years. I paused thinking over what I was going to say next. On one hand, I wanted to tell Anthony how amazing and wonderful Edward was. On the other hand, I didn't want to make him feel awkward. I mean, how weird would it be if someone talked about how much they loved their ex on a first date? He was my best friend. One of the most important people in my life. What happened? Anthony asked softly. The tears started rolling down my cheeks. I couldn't help it. This was the first time I had ever talked to anyone about it. Shish, Bella, shish. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, Anthony said, trying to soothe. It was too late. I was full-blown sobbing by now. I was still in his arms, so he hugged me tighter against his chest. We sat in silence again until I was able to form complete sentences. I'm sorry. I just miss him so much. It's all right. I understand, he assured me. He died in a car accident, I whispered. He leaned his forehead against mine, stroked my cheeks, and repeatedly told me that he was so sorry. For a moment, I couldn't believe myself. Here I was, crying over my lost boyfriend, while in the arms of another. By now the sky was dark and the moon was dimly lighting the meadow we were sitting in. I needed to ask him one more thing before I believed my suspicions. Do one more thing, I corrected mentally. I wrapped my arms around Anthony and leaned in to kiss him. When our lips touched, he was still for a second, and then responded to my intensity. His lips were cold, smooth, and strong. One hand was in my hair and one was around my waist, holding me close so that there was no space between us. His whole body was as cold as ice, yet mine was on fire. I couldn't get close enough to him. I couldn't get enough of him. My hands had a mind of their own and started going up his shirt and tracing the perfect planes of his chest. Anthony froze and pushed me off of him. His eyes were on fire and he looked as if he wasn't breathing. He looked like he did on the first day of school. I'm sorry, I apologized breathlessly. No, I'm sorry. Just give me some space for a moment please, he said in a strained voice. His expression was a mixture of joy and sorrow. He eventually took a deep breath and then pulled me up next to him. I just stared at him a long time. Didn't your parents ever teach you that it's rude to stare at people? He teased. Are you bipolar or something? I questioned. I just can't ever keep up with you, I continued, you're just so. I trailed off. He smiled grimly. Anthony, I'm sorry if you think we're going too fast. Or if you think I'm just taking advantage of you since I've just lost Edward. But I feel so comfortable with you. Like I have known you forever. You know all about me. You can tell my mood by looking into my eyes. Your tastes, opinions, likes and dislikes, mannerisms, clothing, handwriting, everything. I ranted, my voice escalating. I just Bella, calm down, Anthony said softly. I spoke without thinking. Don't you tell me to calm down, Edward Anthony Masson. I bellowed. Anthony's eyebrows furrowed. His expression was questioning my sanity. Then he did a complete 180. His face smoothed and he started to laugh. Is that why you're being so paranoid? Because your old boyfriend's middle name was Anthony. I didn't buy his all too innocent expression. After all, Edward was the best liar I ever knew. I won't take that crap, Edward. You tell me the truth, damn it. Edward or Anthony or whoever he was, pinched the bridge of his nose, got up, and started pacing around the enclosed space of the meadow, muttering a string of curses and profanities. The ultimate sign that he was frustrated. After a while, he stopped pacing and looked at me. His expression was torn for the second time today, as if he was internally debating what to tell me. The truth, I whispered. The truth, he repeated, more to himself. He looked at me, his expression changing yet again. His eyes were full of love. He sat down next to me and spoke. My name is Edward Anthony Masson Cullen, he whispered. I was born June 20, 1992. My father and mother, Edward Sr. and Elizabeth Masson, died in a car crash outside of Port Angeles. And I'm in love with Isabella Swan. Edward's head fell into his hands, as if he was ashamed of what he was admitting. I was stunned. I was right, about everything. I could barely form a coherent thought. He was alive. Edward was alive. Edward, I wrapped my arms around him and leaned my head up against his shoulder. I love you, I mumbled so softly that I wasn't sure that he heard me. He did. As I love you, he replied. How are you? I trailed off. Alive, he finished. It's complicated. Edward, I'm through with all the stalling. Tell me how you survived, I demanded. It was so hard to be stern with him right now. I would rather smother him with kisses. You wouldn't believe me. I stroked his face and kissed him again. I waited for Edward to say something, anything. I refused to be the one to break the silence. Bella, I'm not a normal person. He sighed. Do you remember the last movie that we saw together? He asked, deadly serious. Daybreakers. How could I forget? I was cowering into Edward's shoulder the whole time. He looked at me pointedly. What? Was he for real? How did you? When did you? Why? Oh my gosh, I stuttered. Edward laughed darkly. I told you that you wouldn't believe me. BPOV. Edward. I was at a loss for words. He had to be joking. I mean, come on. Does he really expect me to believe in mythical monsters? The expression on his face told me yes, yes he did. V versus Vam. I couldn't even say it. Yes, vampire, he said, confirming my fears. Fears? What is there to be afraid of? It's Edward. He wouldn't hurt you. My mind chided. But if he really was a vampire, does he want to drink my blood? No, of course not. He wouldn't do that. He just said that he still loves me. Yet there was that small part in my mind that made me a little anxious. I won't hurt you, he promised, mirroring my thoughts. I would never hurt you, he swore. I trust you. I'm just shocked, I guess. He kissed my forehead. I was too. Carlyle had to explain it twice to me. Once when I was burning and once when I was changed. You lost me, I said, confused. Well, how do I explain? Edward mused. I kissed him more while he was arranging his thoughts. I just couldn't get over the fact that he was really here with me. He smiled under my lips. I've missed you, he sighed. I yawned. We had been out here longer than I had thought. Come on, love. Edward saw Ed standing up. Let's get you home. Too tired to walk, I complained. I'll carry you then, he said confidently. Seriously, I said skeptically. Edward was never a shrimp of anything, but I don't think he was strong enough to carry me the whole way back to the car. So little faith, he sighed dramatically. He scooped me up into his arms with ease and started running out of the meadow. He ran so easily, it was as if my 110 pounds were not a burden at all. Edward was smiling and singing the whole way. It reminded me of that on time. Edward thought I should get more exercise and started having me run every morning to school. He, of course, was happy and chatting the whole time and jogged at a light pace. I on the other hand, had to run at full speed to keep up with him and could not supply much for conversation. Didn't help that I tripped every 4 feet. After about 3 days, I convinced him that it would be safer if I just stuck to driving to school. Edward was singing Paper Cut by Linkin Park while I was reminiscing. Then, he started singing some of my favorite songs. Call Me When You're Sober by Evanescence, No Surprise by Daughtry, Playing God by Paramore, and Just to Make Me Laugh, Poker Face by Lady Gaga. Edward singing Lady Gaga songs, the funniest thing you would ever see. Hey, Edward. Yes, love, he smiled. I smiled too. It had been so long since he had called me that. Tell me about you. I'd think you'd know me better than myself, he teased. I rolled my eyes. You know what I mean. What would you like to know? He said, looking wistfully into the forest. Well, the sun, do you know. Complete myth, he laughed. But we still can't go into the sun, he continued. Why not? What happens? I inquired. He set me down so I could walk myself, since we were almost to the car. You're a smart girl. Figure it out yourself. Are you simply unable to? He challenged. Fine, I said, wanting to get on to more pressing questions. Edward, I mean you wouldn't. I hunt animals and drink animal blood, he said, his eyes never leaving my face, judging my reaction. I exhaled, relieved. Is it hard? No, it's quite easy actually. We just follow our instincts. I thought about that. Like a lion, I compared. Exactly like a lion, Edward agreed. We had reached the car now and he opened the door for me. He got in and started to drive back the way we had come. So, do have cool superpowers? Do you have super strength and speed? Can you hypnotize people and fly? Can you turn into a bat? I exclaimed, bouncing up and down like a 5-year-old. Edward laughed exuberantly. I don't turn into a bat, silly girl. Well, so right, I said defensively. I didn't know about any of this. Still, the stories and myths you people believe. Hey, you used to be one of those people. Do you remember that? I shot back, offended. Edward looked out of the window, into the rain that had just started sprinkling. I do remember, he said, his voice like velvet. He looked back at me and smiled. I'm sorry that I have offended you, he apologized. I've been around my siblings far too long. It's okay. I guess I overreacted. Now, you were asking about my special abilities. He asked. I nodded. I can run extremely fast and I'm supernaturally strong. As for the mind control, I can't hypnotize people's minds, but I can read them. You can read minds, I shrieked accidentally. Come on, what would you do if you just found out that your boyfriend can read your mind? Don't worry, Bella, I can't read yours, he assured me. Then why do you say to know the answer to my questions before I ask them? Just because I can't read your mind, doesn't mean that I don't know your mind, his tone implied obviously. Why can't you read my mind? I'm not sure. Nay is. He seemed frustrated by this fact. All of your family is vampires, I stated. Can they read minds? No, just me. Jasper is an empath though, and Alice can see the future. Why just you three? And how do you get the powers you got? Because we're special, he said, smug. I scoffed. Carlisle thinks it's because our whole self is enhanced. Our physical appearance and mental abilities. So, he says that I must have been sensitive to others' thought when I was human, he answered. You were always good at saying the right things to Charlie and staying on his good side, I mused. I was about to ask another question, when I noticed that we passing the boundaries of Forks. How did you find the way back? I asked, surprised. We had been driving in circles before and Edward hadn't known where to go. I knew the whole time how to get back to Forks, he said, matter of fact. Then why? I wanted to spend some time with you. Is that so bad? He asked innocently. I blushed. We were at Charlie's now. I had a great time, Edward. Even though we never got to go to that concert, I teased. I love you, Edward. I love you too, Bella. I always have, he replied in his velvety voice. He kissed me softly on the forehead. I knew that I had to go inside, but I wanted to stay with Edward. I had just gotten him back. I'll call you when I get home, he said, answering my thought yet again. I smiled at the thought of that. Spending hours on the phone with Edward just like the old days. Promise. promise, he assured me as I ran into the night. BPOV. So do you want to do something tonight? Edward asked me at lunch. You can come over and we can watch Romeo and Juliet. I smirked knowing what his response would be. He didn't disappoint. Why? He groaned a little too loud. Almo's. The whole cafeteria glanced over at us quickly, almost like a reflex reaction. We've watched it already. 1,000,000 times, Edward continued. Yeah, but that before, I reminded him, you probably have forgotten it. I knew all about vampires now. I had made Edward tell me every single thing about them. Well, almost everything. He had refused to tell me how he had become one. All I knew was that it was very painful. His memory was something that I did know about. He can remember everything that he hears and sees with perfect clarity. Everything in his vampire life at least. All of his human memories were slowly fading. That's irrelevant. You made me watch those horrid movies millions of times. He exclaimed. All right, I suppose we don't. But wait, there's more. You've quoted. You've debated. You've swooned whenever Romeo's name was mentioned. You've got that blasted story branded into my head. If you think for 1 second that I could forget it, you've gone mad. I'm not the one who's gone mad, I muttered. I wouldn't be able to forget it if I tried. And I heard that. Edward saw Ed ending his rant. Fine, I surrendered, we can watch whatever movie you want. Even Get Smart. Even though it's the stupidest movie known to mankind. Really. His entire face lit up. You hate that movie though. But you like it. Edward gazed at me adoringly. I blushed and started picking the pepperoni off of my pizza. He had been giving me a lot of those looks lately. Bella, we can watch Romeo and Juliet if you want, he said. No, I sighed, we can watch a movie that you want to see. But I still don't get why you like it so much. It's so stupid. It's hilarious, he exclaimed. Like this one part, when, he stopped abruptly and muttered something that I couldn't understand over the constant lunchtime chatter. His head turned slightly and he locked eyes with his sister, Alice, for such a split second that you wouldn't have noticed anything unusual. But the look in Alice's eyes told me something was very wrong. When Alice looked away, her whole demeanor changed. She was zoning out of the window, her expression blank. I looked back at Edward and his expression was livid. Brow puckered, nostrils flaring. And his eyes were a fiery topaz. Hey, what is it? What did she tell you? I asked frantically. He took a deep breath to calm himself. Nothing really, he answered, seeming unconcerned now. What was with the whole, face turning red, steam coming out of the ears, thing then? He smiled at me condescendingly. Steam coming out of my ears, huh? He teased. It could happen. I giggled. Yeah, I giggled. Come on. Tell me. I whined like a 3-year-old. Edward smiled at me warmly. I'll tell you later. Is it about certain people? I asked, lowering my voice. We're not exactly sure, but we have a theory, he said. What do you think it's about? I asked. Edward's eyes darkened. Werewolves, a high soprano voice answered behind me. BPOV. Alice, Edward greeted with a clipped tone. Edward, she sang back. Werewolves. Did Alice just say werewolves? Like full moon, silver bullet, crazy out of control werewolves. What were there mermaids in the Pacific Ocean? If you don't wipe that scowl off of your face it will get stuck there, Alice chided her brother. Edward smiled grimly as Alice bounded back to the Cullen family table, but not before adding an extra chair next to Edward's empty seat. Come on, Edward saw Ed, walking around our table TFFER meet his hand. Where are we going? I asked confused. My family would like to discuss something with me and apparently it can't wait. He answered. We sat down and waited expectantly for Edward's sibling to start. But they were silent, all staring at him without speaking. You know what this means, Emmett said, breaking the silence. No, Edward saw Ed softer than a whisper. Then softer yet, that I'm not even sure that I heard him right. I just got her back. The Cullens all looked sympathetic towards him. All except Rosalie, she looked smug. We should all discuss this with Carlisle and Esme, Jasper suggested. You're right, Alice agreed, they have the final say in this. Let's go, Edward, Dee said, taking my hand and leading me out of the cafeteria. The rest of his family followed. Where are we going? I asked as we exited the school premises and went off towards the parking lot. Home, Edward answered simply. We're going to your house. I asked surprised. He answered distracted. Why? Because we need to talk to Carlisle, he answered frustrated. But why? I persisted. Because of the wolves, Edward growled. I got that much, I said annoyed. Can you just be quiet? For 5 seconds, he shouted. No, tell me what the hell is going on. I shrieked. Edward sighed. Later. Wait till we get to the house. Quote, why couldn't he tell me now? I could take it, whatever it was. It's better if we wait until we're with the rest of my family. Patience, love, he said, answering my thoughts yet again. Are you sure you can't read my mind? I accused. He smiled. We were pulling up to his house now, and I was speechless. It was a gorgeous white mansion, surrounded by a perfectly kept lawn and beautiful gardens, filled with every kind of flower that I could name and some that I couldn't. Edward looked at me expectantly. It's amazing, I breathed. Come on, Edward said, acting my hand and pulling me towards the house. The others are already here. We crossed the threshold into his house and entered a large dining room. There, his family was seated around a large antique-looking wooden table. Edward sat down next to Dr. Cullen, who was at the head of the table, and I sat in between Edward and Alice. The doctor started. Now that we are all here, why, might I ask? Did I receive a message saying that the world was coming to an end and we are all going to die? The teenage Cullens glared at Emmett. Rosalie slapped him upside of his head. Emmett, Edward groaned. What? I had to think of something to say that would get Carlisle home from the hospital and not upset the humans. Emmett defended himself. Yes, Rosalie stated sarcastically, saying that the war LD is going to end and we're going to die, definitely won't upset anyone. We don't have time for this. Alice exclaimed, my vision is fading. It's freaking fading. Jasper put his arm around Alice's shoulders and the atmosphere was suddenly calm and peaceful. What's going on? Dr. Cullen asked with a ring of authority. Everyone looked at Alice. They've found out about Edward. They'll be here in a little over an hour. She answered hopelessly. Who's coming? The werewolves. I questioned. Yes, drive. Cullen answered grimly. Why? And what does it have to do with Edward? Bella, would you like to go for a walk in the forest with me? The doctor offered. I looked at Edward and he nodded. Dr. Cullen rose silently from the table and I followed him out of the dining room and into the cool autumn air. What's going on, Dr. Cullen? I asked once we were a ways into the forest. Well, Miss Swan, I brought you out here to try to explain just that. Where to start? Oh, and please call me Carlisle. Please call me Bella, I requested. Bella, how much do you know about us? A fairly good amount. Then you know that my family and I have lived in this area before, Carlisle assumed, sitting down on a boulder and motioning for me to sit next to him. Edward mentioned it briefly. I told him, trying to remember exactly what Edward had said. And I'm sure that you've been to La Push plenty of times, correct? Yes. Charlie's best friend Billy lived on the reservation. About 60 years ago, when it was just Rosalie, Emmett, Esme, and I, the Quileutes caught us hunting on their land and recognized us for what we are. Carlisle said, looking off into the woods. He sighed and looked back at me. They threatened to kill us because it was their duty to protect their people from our kind. But you wouldn't hurt anyone, I said, more to myself. Thank you. You really are such a sweet, trusting girl. I can see why Edward didn't want to let you get away. I blushed. I told the Act that we didn't hunt humans and that we were willing to come to a compromise. Carlisle continued. We then made a treaty that said that they would leave us alone and keep our true identities a sec. Red as long as we stayed off of their land and promised to never bite another human. So that was it. The wolves were coming to attack the Cullens because Carlisle had created Edward. I didn't know much about the transformation process. But I did know it involved biting. What are you going to do? I asked quietly. The best solution is that we leave Forks to avoid a war with the wolves, Carlisle answered softly. I nodded, the tears already blurring my eyesight. BPOV. We walked back in silence. Carlisle was giving me time to think and I needed to think a lot of things through. Would I ever see Edward again? If not, how would I live through losing him a second time? How would I feel about the Quileutes now that I know about the secret of their tribe? Upon entering the house, there was quite a scene playing out in front of us. Edward was pacing around the dining room table, muttering to himself. Alice was on top of the table, pointing at Rosalie, with a wild expression on her face. Emmett looked like he was trying to tackle Alice, but Jasper was holding him back. Rosalie, arms crossed, was glaring up at Alice. Esme was the only one who was sitting down. She had her head on the table. Some kind of cord was coming out of her ears. Wait, was that her iPod? Children, Carlisle called. They froze. Esme looked up, sighed, took her earbuds out, and went to stand by Carlisle. Do I even want to know? He asked Nay specifically. No, the younger Cullens mumbled. How did this happen? Esme moaned. I don't know, Alice stated, scowling at Rosalie. She jumped off of the table and came over to me. Bella, Alice said cautiously, glancing at Edward, we're not blaming you for anything, but is there any way that you could have slipped up and told someone something? 7 pairs of golden eyes stared at Mew. That's impossible. The only person I know that even comes in contact with the Quileutes is Charlie. I gasped, horror-struck. Charlie, who gossiped with his best friend just like old women. Billy Black, Charlie's best friend and one of the Quileute elders. The Quileutes, pack of werewolves that was coming after the Cullen family. But he doesn't even know anything. I cried in denial. He couldn't have said anything to Billy that would make him know what you are. Let alone that you made Edward. They already knew about us, just not about Edward, Jasper informed me. My eyes locked with Edward's and I'm sure that his expression reflected mine. Heartbroken, Edward pulled me onto the sofa with him, cradling me in his lap, while the others filed out of the room. He buried his face into my hair, while I sobbed into his chest. Edward, someone murmured. Alice. She sat down next to us, took me out of Edward's arms, and pulled me onto her lap. And even though I hardly knew her, I clung to Alice tightly and cried on her shoulder. She held me just as closely, shushed me, and told me that everything was going to be all right. How can it be? I whimpered. It will be, she responded fiercely. After an immeasurable moment, Alice stood me up on my feet and went to join her family, who was waiting by the door. Edward came up to me, wrapped his arms around me, and softly pressed his lips to mine. It wasn't the kind of kiss that was a quick peck on the lips. The kind that a husband would give his wife before he would go to work in the morning, telling her that he would miss her but would be reunited soon. It wasn't a long passionate make-out session either. The kind when the separation is longer. Like when a man goes off to war. Maybe it is possible that you would never be able to see that person again. But there is always hope. Honestly, I didn't know how to describe it. It had elements of both kinds, but this was different. Something in its own category altogether. When the kiss ended, tears were flowing freely from my eyes. Edward looked like he would be crying too, if that was possible. I'll always love you, Isabella. His voice cracked on my name. I'll always love you too, Edward, I promised. He leaned down, and pressed his lips very lightly to my forehead for the briefest instant. My eyes closed. Take care of yourself, he breathed cool against my skin. There was a light, unnatural breeze. My eyes flashed open. He was gone. They all were. I sunk down on the floor and sobbed. My heart was aching in my chest and I couldn't find the will to get off of the floor. I couldn't find the will to do anything. I woke up with a start. Momentarily, forgetting where I was, I wondered why I had fallen asleep on the floor. Then it all came back to me. I shot up from the floor and ran out of the door, stumbling as did so, as I was dizzy from the sudden motion. I skidded to a stop a few feet away from the threshold. How was I supposed to get home? I couldn't walk. It was so dark that I couldn't even see my hands in front of my face. I couldn't call Charlie. I had forgotten my cell phone at home. Fabulous, just fabulous, I muttered to myself. As I paced around, trying to figure out what I was going to do, my shin rammed into something. I moaned. I rammed into something metal, it seemed. I out my hands out to see what it was. I was rounded. I followed it until the texture of the object changed. It was a tire. My truck. I yanked the door of the cab open and saw in the light on the ceiling that my keys were in the ignition. On the seat was a white piece of paper folded in half with the word Bella written on top and a DVD case. I got into the truck, shut the door, and read the note. Bella, Edward loves you. Never forget that. The reason that he isn't putting up a fight to leave is that he wants you to be safe. We told him in the beginning that it wouldn't be good for you if he came back, but he wouldn't listen. He was insistent that he see you again. Even just to check up on you. To see that you were okay. He truly loves you. Don't let anyone tell you differently. I know you're confused as to why I'm telling you what you already know. But you'll need this reassurance soon. Trust me, I would know. Don't give up on us. On Edward. I promise that this will all work out. I have a plan. We won't be gone for long, just until things boil over. Be strong. I know that you can. When you start to doubt, watch the DVD that came along with this letter. But only when you start to doubt. Otherwise leave it in a safe place until you need it. Do you understand? Everything will be alright, just as I promised. Love, Alice. I really didn't know what she was talking about, but from what Edward had told me, always trust Alice. While driving home, I was thinking about what Alice had written, and almost didn't notice the car parked into my parking space. I walked up the porch and heard voices arguing inside. When I opened the door, I stared straight into the eyes of Billy Black. BPOV. Bella, get back here. No, I screamed at the top of my lungs as I slammed the door to my room. If only Charlie knew. Then he would see why I was so upset. He would see that Billy isn't as innocent as he seems to be. He would see that I'm not just being a hormonal teenager. He would see that I am hurting. That my heart has been ripped out of my chest and I have been left bleeding. He would understand. But he can't know. I buried my head deep into my pillows, trying to block out the world. Could this hurt worse than the last time? Worse than thinking he was dead. Worse knowing that I would never see him again, but he was out there somewhere. It seemed like it. I slapped myself mentally. What was I doing? I could find him. I could track him down and talk some sense into him. He couldn't have gotten too far. I jumped off of my bed and ran to my closet. I had about $2,000 stashed in there. I shoved my money, a bunch of random clothes, and the DVD and letter from Alice into a duffel bag. Knock, knock, knock. Go away, I called, trying to hide the duffel bag. Bella, can I just talk to you for a minute? Jacob asked. Jacob, what does he want? Did my dad send him up here? "Kay, come in," I said, plopping on the bed, trying to look casual and not succeeding. "I'll be really quick," he said, closing the door behind him and sitting down next to me. He sighed. "I know what you're going through. And I just want to tell you that I'm here for you and I'll back you up against my brothers." "Why?" I asked, perplexed. "I told you, I know what you are going through." I was touched. Jacob and I had always got along well, which was good since we were forced to hang out a lot by our fathers, but right then, I felt as if we had a special connection. This is why I felt that I could trust him. "Jacob, how much are you willing to do to help me?" "Anything. Help me find him," I whispered desperately. I was worried that our fathers were listening in. "You can help me, can't you? Sniff them out of something." I couldn't believe that I was trusting a werewolf. The same werewolf that belongs to the pack that is the reason my life had suddenly no meaning. It was probably risky. For all I knew, this could be a trick into leading the wolves to the Cullens. "I guess love makes you do irrational things. Please, Jake, I need to find him," I pleaded. "All right," he smiled. "First, we need to go to the last place that you saw them." "Let's go." I grabbed my duffel bag and headed towards the door. We tiptoed down the stairs and were almost out the door. "Where do you think you are going?" Charlie demanded from behind of us. I had no idea what to say, so I acted on impulse. "Run," I screeched, darting out the door into the rain. "The woods," Jacob yelled in my direction, already far in front of me. My adrenaline rush was waning and I started to trip over a number of things, including my own feet. "When I change, you need to jump on my back and don't let go." "What?" I cried. "Now," he growled. No longer Jacob Black, but a huge russet-colored wolf. I grabbed hold of his fur and lifted myself up into his back. It was amazing that I could, since he was as tall as a horse, if not taller. The pouring rain didn't help either. I held on for dear life as he ran through the forest at a speed faster than my truck could reach. He slowed down. I looked to see the Cullen house, visible from the moonlight shining down from in between the clouds. Jacob sniffed the air and ran to the front door and batted at the doorknob. "What do you want in?" He nodded. I opened the door and he trotted inside like he owned the place. After a moment, he was back, in his human form. Here, he said, holding something out to me, you need a jacket. You're sopping wet. Thanks, I said, noticing that he had a new set of clothes on. I really don't think that you should take their stuff though. They won't miss it. Have you seen the size of their closets? I rolled my eyes. What's with the hold up? We need to talk some things over. He paused, calculating. How long do you think this trip will take and how far do you think we'll have to travel? I don't know. It could take a day or it could take a week. Where would they have gone? We should gather some supplies from their house just in case. We got clothes for Jacob, from Emmett's closet I'm guessing. Stole some money from one of their vaults, which I was greatly opposed to, but Jacob insisted and went back downstairs to the living room. We'll probably need a car too, Jacob said sheepishly. Why, can't you just run the whole way? It would make the most sense. See, here's the thing. When I'm a wolf, the others can hear my thoughts if they are wolves too. That's one of the reasons that I changed back as fast as I could. If I was changed the whole time, then they would be able to find out where we were and drag us back home. Well, where are we going to get a car? We can't go back to get my truck, it's not fit for the trip anyway. We can't use your car, 'cause, well, it's not in the best shape either. Hey, are listening to me? I looked over to him with his back turned and head bent over. Sorry, but I think I solved our problem. Come on, he said, going outside and into the garage. What is he doing? I asked myself. Come on, Bella. I went out to see what he was doing and saw Jacob in the driver's seat of a sleek yellow car. Let's go, he said impatiently. Did you hotwire this? I asked as I threw out bags in the back and climbed into the passenger seat. Nope, apparently your vampires want you to find them, he said, handing me a piece of paper. I wasn't surprised when I saw who it was from. Bella, please don't wreck my car. Love, Alice. I laughed as Jacob revved the engine and drove onto the highway. BPOV. I love this car, Jacob exclaimed for the millionth time. I know, I laughed. We were heading north, towards Alaska. Jacob couldn't fathom why anyone would go to Alaska to hide, but I knew better. The Cullens had come to Forks from Alaska. They had lived with the Denali Coven, their family for all intensive purposes. I didn't know what they were like. Would they help us? They drank animal blood like the Cullens, but did that mean they would be kind to us? To a werewolf. Hey Jake. Hey what? Maybe. I hesitated. He wouldn't like what I was about to say. Maybe I should talk to the Denalis alone. What Denalis? I hadn't told him about them. I'm pretty sure that we're going to meet another coven of vampires in Alaska. So why would we have to talk to them? He questioned. The Denali Coven is a group of vampires like the Cullens. They drink animal blood and are their closest friends, I informed him. Why would we have to talk to them though? Why can't you just talk to the Cullens? I have a feeling that they didn't stay in Alaska. It just doesn't seem that they would risk it. They probably opt there to lose your pack since they think that you're going to be tracking them down. I think they have moved on by now. This was not going to be a simple task. Speaking of your pack, what are they up to? Did they follow us? I worried. Well, I haven't exactly talked to them. I'm trying to keep things from them. They're trying to keep things from me. I'm considered a traitor to them, he said sadly. I felt horrible. He was turning his back on his tribe, his brothers, his family. Hey, don't feel sorry for me, Jacob said, reading my expression. I chose this myself and I can deal with the consequences. I smiled a grim smile. I would owe him big time after this. We're almost there, Jacob said, sticking his head out the window and grimacing. I can smell them now. We were zooming through the Alaska wilderness. It was lightly snowing. It was beautiful, there was no doubt about it. As we drove, we passed by resident homes. Very spaced apart, surrounded by trees, covered by a light blanket of snow. I was marveling at the scenery when the car came to an abrupt halt. We're here, Jacob announced. Are you sure? It could be any one of these houses. Positive. Reeks like bloodsucker. His face contorted into a grimace as if to prove it. I took a deep breath. Let's get this over with. We walked up a small pathway leading to the house. It was a very simple structure, 4 sides, 1 door, 2 windows, and a chimney on the roof. A porch surrounding the front. All of a sudden, Jacob started trembling beside me. What is it? I asked alarmed. He didn't answer. His bow convulsed and he was a giant wolf before my eyes. He launched himself towards the house and I could now see the problem. A boy and a girl were sitting on the porch together. The girl was sitting on the boy's lap and sucking his neck. I knew what she was really doing, but could tell that it set Jacob over the edge. Vampire. Neck, sucking. He probably didn't think there could be any other explanation. But Edward told me the reason the Denali women had become vegetarians. They did it for men. Human men. Edward told me that they gave up humans a long time ago. Maybe they decided to try it out again. Whatever the case was, that girl wasn't sucking on the boy's neck because she was thirsty. Jacob, stop, I scream, but it's too late. He had already tackled the girl to the ground. Get off of me, you monster. The beautiful voice of the vampire shrieked. What's going on? Another's voice rang out. Irina. A different one called. Irina was back on her feet and her face was livid. She RGED at Jacob so fast her body was a blur. Irina, we're coming, one of the others said as Irina's family closed in on Jacob. The three of them joined the fight against Jacob and he was in trouble. I had to stop this before he got hurt. He was no match for four of them together. If I was being honest, I didn't think he stood much of a chance against Irina alone. Stop. You don't understand. Nay was listening to me. Jacob. I tried again. The female with the strawberry blonde hair tackled Jacob off of the one with straight long hair, as Jacob was shaking as if he'd been shocked. Irina lunged Ed for his throat when her sister got up from the ground. Please. I cried. Thankfully it was enough to distract Irina. She hesitated for a second, causing her to miss her target. Unfortunately, that didn't stop the only male in the group from picking up Jake and throwing him into the woods. No, I whimpered. It was useless. They wouldn't stop until he was dead. Jacob shot through the trees at the four feral vampires. Enough. A female voice rang out with a slight Spanish accent. The battle froze. Carmen. The male groaned. Carmen appeared out of nowhere standing by my side. She gave me a warm smile before turning to address the others. What happened? This mongrel attacked me, Irina said pointing at Jacob. We were just trying to defend our sister, the female with the straight owned hair said as strawberry blonde one nodded. Sweetie, Carmen said turning to look at me, do you know this? She gestured toward Jacob. I nodded. That's Jacob. He was helping me find you actually. Carmen raised her eyebrows surprised. He saw Irina with that boy and didn't think rashly, I continued. Jacob trotted into the forest and the male looked uneasy. He's just going to change back into his human form. I assured the vampire family before me. Why were you looking for us? The strawberry blonde asked me. I need to ask you about the Cullens. Their defensive postures relax, smiles grace their lips. Bella, the male says as a question. Yes, I reply in the same tone. You're the one that Edward was so distressed about. The straight-haired blonde said with recognition. I'm Kate, she said bounding over to shake my hand. I'm Bella. We know, the strawberry blonde said making her way over to me. I'm Tanya. She came over and gave me a hug. Irina, but you already knew that I'm guessing. Irina said shaking my hand. And I am Carmen and that's Eliezer, she said gesturing towards the male. Sorry about your friend, Irina apologized. But he really should have thought his actions through. She added as an afterthought. There was a murmur of agreement within the coven. Great, now that we're introduced and agreeing that I'm an idiot. Where the heck is Edward? Jacob said annoyed. Australia. The Denalis said in unison. BPOV. Why in the world would he go to Australia? I mean, not that it's not nice there, because I'm sure that it is, but why Australia? I groaned, leaning back in my seat. As soon as we found out where he was, we booked the first flight to Sydney. It was a good thing that Kate could forge a passport for Jacob. The whole 24-hour fly. I was thinking about Edward and his family. Why didn't the Cullens stay in Denali? They would be safe there. Was I going to have to chase them all around the world? What would they think of Jacob? Other vampires we might meet in the Cullen family. I kept going over different scenarios in my head. Some were good, some bad, some were downright horrible. The Cullens would at least give me time to explain. Any others, not so sure. I shuddered at the thought. We were lucky in Denali. If Carmen hadn't stepped in, Jacob Black would be with us anymore. I could only hope that our luck hadn't run out. And, on an unrelated note, I can't even remember the last time that I blushed. How can it be raining? I asked Nay in particular. First it was raining in Forks. Not unusual. Then it was snowing in Denali, which was understandable. But Australia, why did it have to be raining in Australia? I kicked a rock into a rain puddle. I've had a revelation, I announced. The rain is following me. Maybe you just have bad luck. Jacob chuckled. I laughed a shaky laugh. Wasn't I just thinking that luck was something we couldn't afford? You can say what you want about the rain. He continued, I like it here. What's this place called again? Luna Park. Why did you want to look here? Of all places, I questioned. Well, he said thoughtfully, they hunt animals. Maybe we'll find them wrestling with a squirrel. I rolled my eyes. Where could they be? Do they know anyone that lives here? Jacob asked, sitting on a park bench. I pulled the hood of my raincoat up more to keep it from falling and sat next to him. I was wondering that myself. Edward only ever mentioned the Denalis. Maybe we can. Look at that girl over there. He cut me off. Jacob, can we focus on not trying to pick up girls? First of all, she looks like she could be my little sister. Second of all, I'm serious. What girl? I sighed, looking around. The one in the tree over there. Then I saw her. A young girl perching on a branch that looked to be in her early teens, with wide burgundy eyes framed with lashes that popped out at you. Her dirty blonde hair was pulled neatly into a ponytail. She leapt off her branch and gestured for us to follow her as she left the park. Jacob and I looked at each other briefly, and ran after the mysterious stranger. My sister will be so excited that you're finally here. Stephanie chattered as we drove through the busy streets of Sydney. How long have you been expecting us? I wondered how close we were on the Cullen's trail. Not long. We've just been anxious to have visitors. Stephanie swerved through the cars with ease, going far over the speed limit and barely paying attention to the road. We're all vampires, expert drivers. Are you even old enough to drive? Jacob asked skeptically as our driver whipped around a corner. Of course I am, she giggled. I'm 59 years old. How old were you when you were? He trailed off. When I was changed. 14. I look older because I'm so tall though. How old is your sister? I asked. I'm not allowed to say anything until we get home, Stephanie sang. That might be impossible, Jacob muttered. She glared at him through the rear view mirror. A wave of sadness suddenly came over me. Stephanie, with her blonde hair and tall figure, looked nothing like her, but personality-wise, she was a constant reminder of Alice. Home, for Stephanie, was an apartment on the 4th floor of a 10-story skyscraper. Once parked in the lot for the apartment tenants, Stephanie ran away, too fast for human eyes to see. When I stepped outside, I saw the reason why. The rain had stopped and sunlight was peeking through the remaining clouds. Room 423, a distant voice called. Wait, what? Jacob was confused. That's her apartment number, I said patiently. Oh, he said, embarrassed. When we finally found the room, a curly-haired blonde answered the door. She was tall, and was in her 20s. Her golden eyes were like a does. This had to be Stephanie's sister. She sighed in relief. Good, you got here in one piece. I know how Stephanie's driving can be. I smiled at her. I'm Iris, she introduced herself. I'm Bella, I know, and that must be Jacob, she said, taking notice of Jacob behind me. Come in, please. We walked into a small but cozy apartment. Stephanie was lounging on a leather couch, surfing through the TV channels. She averted her gaze from the television to give us a 100-watt smile. Iris made up a room for you too. You can stay as long as you like. Would you like something to eat? We stocked up on human food. Iris offered. No thanks, I declined. Sit down and we'll tell you what you want to know then, Iris smiled. Alice left a note for you, she continued, handing me a small envelope. Bella, I can't see if you get this or not, the note said, but if you do, here are plane tickets to where we are headed next. There are TWF them in case that mud is the reason I can't see. See you soon. XXX Alice. Alice was certainly prepared for everything. I noticed the date and time on the tickets. Holy crow. We need to get going. I exclaimed. What did the note say? Street. Effani asked, reaching for the piece of paper. Iris swatted her hand away. That's private stuff. Alice gave me plane tickets to where they were headed. Where were they headed anyway? The tickets didn't say. Who knows? They didn't stay long. Barely a day. All they told us was that they need a vacation and they were going to visit all of their friends that they haven't seen in a while, Iris told me. Well, Stephanie popped off the couch. We better get going. She reached for the car keys. Iris was faster. I'm driving. We don't want to get in another car crash. She glared at her sister. Stephanie rolled her eyes and headed out the door. Where's Jake? In the kitchen, he called. Let's go. We're leaving. I followed Iris out of the door. Once in the car and zooming down the street, Iris and Stephanie told us their story. I was turned first, Stephanie started. I had gotten into a car crash and a vampire was nearby. He smelled the blood and attacked. But then people started to crowd around us and he ran away, leaving me with his venom in my bloodstream. I thought you were 14 when you were changed. She was. She stole our dad's car and went on a joyride when Nene was home, said Iris. I didn't want anyone to think I was a freak or take me into custody and run weird tests on me, so I hid in Luna Park until I was changed. I stayed in the very tree you saw me in for 3 days. Stephanie stated proudly. She was gone for 7 years before I saw her again. The authorities said she must have been kidnapped, but I didn't think so. Then one night she came to me and changed me, Iris said, turning into the airport. Wait, I said, doing the math, what's the age difference between you two? We were twins, Iris told me. Here's your stop. We were parked in front of our airport terminal. Stephanie and Iris both got out of the car to give me a goodbye hug. They even shook Jacob's hand, cringing a little at the heat as they did so. Good luck, the sisters said in unison. Thanks for all of your help, I said as we entered the airport. They seemed nice, I commented. I guess, but Iris' eyes were gold, and her sisters were red. Don't you think that's a little strange? Jacob asked. Don't judge them, I said sternly. Jacob just laughed at me. We boarded the plane and headed off for our next destination. BPOV. We ended up in Italy, which could ONL. Why mean one thing. We were supposed to go to Volturi. I didn't know much about the Volturi. Just that they were the police of the vampire world. And that they abused their power. And that the Cullens didn't like them, especially Edward. I also knew that they hated werewolves. So much that one of the Volturi brothers personally hunted as many as he could find and killed them mercilessly. Jacob. Yeah, I think you should stay here. At the airport. Why? He asked incredulously. It would be safer. His eyebrows furrowed. Don't give me any of that. It's safer, crap. You're the human here. I know, but... I trailed off. But nothing. We're going to find your vamp if it's the last thing I do. I didn't come this far for nothing, he said, walking to get our luggage. Thinking about what he said, I realized how much our little adventure had put him through. He left his home, friends, and family, all for me. To chase after these people he didn't even know. People he was supposed to hate. He didn't know how long it would be before we got home, or the consequences he would have to face when we got back. I ran over to Jacob as fast as I could, and hugged him with all of my strength. He hugged me back and we stood there, next to the luggage carousel, embracing. Let's go find him, he said, pulling away smiling. Are you sure this is where we're going? Jacob was being very skeptical of my judgment at the moment. Of course, where else would they go in Italy? I answered, annoyed. I wasn't talking about the city. I was talking about the turn you just made. We're heading east and the map says to go west, he said, pointing to the map in his hands. Not a problem. I smirked and whipped the car around in a U-turn. Have you been taking driving lessons from a vampire? Jacob laughed. When you are around monsters, you act like monsters. Bella see, Bella do, Jacob mocked. I smacked him on the shoulder. There's Volterra. I'm sure of it. We were driving into a breathtaking city. That reminded you of the Renaissance era. White marble fountain, tall beautiful clock tower. We walked around the small Italian city for about an hour. Nothing. No sign of vampirous life forms anywhere. Sure, there were some creepy looking people, but that didn't mean anything. Jake, I think we should. I looked around. Jake. He was gone. I walked around the square. Maybe he found something. He could have told me he was going somewhere and I didn't hear. I walked around in circles for quite some time. Excuse me, miss, someone said behind me, are you lost? A tanned woman faced me smiling. No, I'm just trying to find my friend. Quote, I could try to help you. What does he look like? I'm sure your boyfriend is around here somewhere, the stranger smiled warmly. He's not my boyfriend, but maybe you could help. He's really tall and tan. Black hair and eyes, he's wearing a brown t-shirt. The woman's face lit up. I have seen him. Come, follow me. She brought me through the crowd of tourists to a more secluded part of the city. I'm sorry, I'm being rude. I held out my hand. I'm Bella. And my name is Bethany, the brown-haired woman introduced herself. As Bethany led me deeper into the city, I realized something. I never told Bethany that my friend was a boy. I stopped dead in my tracks. Where's Jacob? I demanded. Bethany's expression was puzzled. I'm taking you to him. Where is he? I repeated. Just this way, she said, her brow starting to sweat. No. I turned around and ran as fast as I could, screaming Jacob's name. A tall man grabbed me from behind. That is enough out of you. The man's deep voice boomed. He was as tall and built as Emmett. Come, Bethany, the man continued. Bethany followed the huge man as he dragged through an alley and into a doorway secluded in the shadows. Arrow will be pleased to see you, the man commented. Will he? I said indifferently. After a few more yards of walking, I finally built of my courage. Where's Jacob? I demanded. The mud is a little tied you at the moment. What have you done to him? I screeched. The man smiled. Don't worry your pretty little head about it. I would be more concerned for yourself if I was you. He led me in a spacious room made of white marble matching the fountain outside. 3 men were sitting in the middle of the room. They were superior, important. They were the Volturi brothers. Isabella Swan. So nice to finally meet you. The middle one, Arrow, exclaimed. Great job, Felix. Great job. Where's Jacob? I repeated for, hopefully, the last time. I would think that why? Oh, you would be asking about someone other than Jacob, Arrow said. Why would I do that? I stated. Maybe he was right. Arrow mused. Maybe you don't care about him anymore. My eyes widened in disbelief. You don't mean, and she finally is caught up. The blonde man on Arrow's left said exasperated. Is he here? Is he all right? Nay answered. Edward. I called. Edward, are you here? Stop yelling. Bella. My angel's angry voice rang through the room. Wait, angry. He burst through the doors wearing all black and a stone-cold expression. What are you doing here? I was shocked. He never has talked to me like that. Arrow. Why is she here? He asked, deciding to ignore me. Arrow was silent. Bella. Edward saw Eve turning back to me. You need to leave. Why? Because I said so. Why? I persisted stubbornly. Leave. He barked. Edward, why are you doing this? His stone-hard gaze settled on me, eyes unforgiving. I can't keep up these pretenses anymore. The wolves were never an issue. They were just a way to escape. What do you mean? My voice was barely a whisper. You're a smart girl, Isabella. You know exactly what I mean. He waited for me to respond, but I just stood there dumbfounded. I didn't want to hurt you. But I guess it's necessary to make you understand. Our little romance was nothing but fake, stupid, puppy love. It wasn't real. I realized that when I was changed. I didn't want you anymore. I don't want you. I don't love you. I never have. I thought I did. I thought we would be together for the rest of my life, but I was blinded by humanity. You're just a silly little human. You mean nothing to me. Absolutely nothing. Why couldn't you just stay in Forks like you were supposed to? He continued. Why couldn't you get over me like a good little girl and stay in Forks? Did you honestly think you could do anything about my leaving, did you? He laughed darkly. You said you loved me. You promised. I whimpered. He flashed a dazzling grin. I lied. Edward put an arm around me and led me to the door. Get out of here, he ordered. Go back to Forks, to Charlie. Pretend that nothing out of the ordinary happened. Get on with your life. Jacob, I asked. Already home, he assured me. Goodbye, Bella, he said, walking away without a second glance. BPOV. You mean nothing to me. Absolutely nothing. He didn't love me. I couldn't think, couldn't breathe. Nothing was important anymore. Not myself, not Jacob, nothing. Sinking to the ground of the alley outside of the Volturi door, I let myself wallow. What would I do now? Follow Edward's advice and go home. Get over him. No, I wouldn't be able to do that. Go back in there and beg him to take me back. Maybe. It wouldn't do any good though. Why did he choose now to break my heart? Why couldn't he save me the pain a second time and stay dead to me? I would rather have him dead and love me than alive and hate me. No, that wasn't true. A person like Edward should be alive. Edward had to exist. I got off the ground, wiped my tears, and walked through the less crowded than before square. I hoped they left the car when they took Jacob. Sure enough, there was the car, shining in the sunlight. I got in and slammed the door behind me. Can I just die now? My peaceful silence was interrupted by my cell phone ringing. I took my bag and yanked things out of it trying to locate my phone. Then, just as I saw it, my phone stopped ringing. What? I flipped it open and looked at the caller ID. Restricted. Then I remembered the note Alice Cullen had given me in what seemed like another life. When you start to doubt, watch the DVD that came along with this letter. But only when you start to doubt. Looking at what was in my hand, I saw it. The DVD Edward's sister had given me. But how was I supposed to watch it? I reclined in the car seat and stared up at the ceiling. Wow, how did I not notice that? Did she think of everything? I climbed into the back seat and popped the DVD into the player attached to the top of the car. Here goes nothing. The screen showed someone moving with the video camera through a dimly lit hallway. The hallway led into a room with the same lighting and a figure on a bed, moaning and whimpering. A woman was hovering over the bed with a worried look on her face. She looked up, seeing the camera for the first time. Alice, do you think that is appropriate right now? The female, Esme, scolded. Of course, Alice's always bubbly voice exclaimed. How are we supposed to create memories without shows his first moments? He's in pain, excruciatingly so. Do you actually think he is going to want to relive this? Humans record their births, and they don't like to relive that. But they still do that, Alice pointed out. Esme sighed and turned her attention back to the person lying on the bed. I wonder what his name might be, she mused. The video frame shifted as Alice shrugged her shoulders. Zooming closer to the boy, it was easy to see that he was truly in horrible pain. Muscles and teeth clenched, breathing heavily and face contorted in agony. Bella, he moaned, Bella. Esme's expression became heartbroken. Hush, it's okay. It'll be over soon. She too. His hand in hers and held it to her face. She then glared at Alice. Why don't you do something useful and tell me how long it will be? Esme snapped at her adoptive daughter. Alice chuckled. 2 minutes and 13 seconds exactly. Esme smiled, giving the boy's hand a squeeze. It won't be long now, she told him. The boy's breathing sped. He started to moan louder, then outright scream. Esme never let GF his hand. Go get Carlisle and the others, she ordered. Tell them it's time. The camera was set on a tripod and Alice left the room, only to return in a matter of seconds later with the whole family included. Jasper, Emmett, be prepared. He's going to wake up soon. Rosalie, get behind the boys. Alice, you too. I don't want you all crowding him, Carlisle commanded his family. Changing boy's ragged breathing stopped. His body froze and the room went silent. Then, he shot up, straight off the bed and looked around frantically. Where am I? What happened? Who? He took in his surroundings for the first time. Who are you people? Quote, Esme, who was still clutching the boy's hand, started, do you remember the last thing that happened? I was at Bella's, she had just gotten home. And then I had leave and go, his brow furrowed, somewhere. I'm not sure, maybe I went home. No, I went to see my parents. Yeah, and he ran his fingers through his hair and gathered his thoughts. We went to Port Angeles. That's it, but we didn't make it, did we? I'm not sure. Realization dawned on him. We didn't make it, he said in a sure voice. We got in a crash. And my parents, they're gone, aren't they? He looked to Esme. Esme was at a loss for words. No, Carlyle said softly. They didn't, but you did. Do you know what you are? What do you mean? Know what I am? Do you feel that ache in the back of your throat? The doctor asked. Yes, I do. He swallowed. That's thirst. Thirst for blood. Blood. The boy asked incredulously. You're kidding. What am I? A vampire or something? He laughed. That's exactly what you are. A beautiful voice rang out. Rosalie stepped into view. You're a vampire. An immortal, bloodthirsty monster, she continued. You're a creature of the night. A soulless demon now. Rosalie, Esme gasped. I'm just telling him as it is. No need to sugarcoat things, she said airily. He needed to be turned, Carlyle said, more to himself than to anyone else. The young vampire took a deep breath, and his brow furrowed in confusion yet again. Why does it feel weird when I breathe? He asked. Because you don't need to, Alice replied simply. All right then. He took another unneeded breath. I need to find Bella. She's probably worried sick by now, he said to himself. How long has it been? Only 2 days, Carlyle said. Only. It's fast for the normal changing process, the doctor explained. Great. The newborn groaned. She's defiantly worried. I have to go see her. He started for the door. No, a deep voice shouted. Alice had the camera back in her hands and turned to show Jasper blocking the exit. You'll kill her. She's human. The boy scoffed. Why would I kill Bella? You wouldn't be able to control yourself. The bloodlust would be too strong, Jasper said patiently. He's right. You couldn't stop yourself, Rosalie seconded. But I have to see her. At least to tell her I'm okay. There's no use, Jasper said. You don't understand. No, you don't understand. Jasper's voice rose. Enough. Carlyle spoke naturally, yet everyone silenced. I saved you, because of her. Even as you were dying, you called her name. There's a way, but it will be tricky. Emmett came up and clapped a hand on the new vampire's shoulder. All you have to do, he said, is wait until the next school year, enroll as a different person. And sweep her off her feet. That's crazy. How is that supposed to work? Emmett shrugged. It's the easiest way. By then, hopefully, you'll be over your craze. Why newborn stage and can see your girl without draining the life out of her, he smiled jokingly. I guess, the boy said uncertainly. Wait, what crazy newborn stage? You have so much to learn, my brother. Emmett put an arm around his new brother's shoulders. Come on, Edward, let's go hunt, Alice said, abandoning the video camera and leading the new Edward Cullen out the door. BPOV. Alice laughed, jostling the camera. That was the goriest thing I've ever seen. She laughed. Edward rolled his eyes and smiled, wiping the blood off of his hands. He ran over to Alice's side and towered over her. Isn't that what you said the first time? His eyes were deep amber now, sun glinting off his skin, throwing rainbows in the forest. I think you just like to be filthy, Alice commented. He ruffled his sister's hair. Alice and Edward ran back to their home and were greeted at the door by Rosalie. She laughed at Edward's appearance and led them into Carlyle's office for a family meeting. I've decided to go and work at the hospital to get the town used to the Forks' newest residents, Carlyle stated. While I'm gone to work, he continued, I want all of you to behave. The Cullens looked pointedly towards Emmett. Hey, don't look at me, look at Eddie boy over there. He'll probably sneak out to go see his girlfriend. If she hasn't already found a new guy, he added mockingly. Emmett, W.E. don't want a repeat of the gopher incident. Not my fault, Emmett whined. Rosalie slapped her husband on the back of his head. I told you it was a bad idea. Edward chuckled. Stupid mind reader know-it-all, Emmett muttered. The rest of the Cullens laughed. Blank, underscore, blank. Carlyle, Tanya exclaimed, rushing through the threshold of the door to embrace him. Tanya, what a surprise, Carlyle said. The rest of the Denali clan filed in, and Kate looked around, sniffing the air. Irina, noticing it too, did the same. Who else is here? Carmen asked. Edward, he's up in his room, Jasper replied. The newborn, Eleazar questioned. Tanya smiled seductively. I think I'll go introduce myself. The younger Cullen tried to muffle their laughter. Only 2 minutes later, Tanya came stomping down the stairs in disappointment. He wouldn't even give me the chance to speak. I got rejected before I could even get one word out. Me, she said, outraged. Stupid mind reader know-it-all, Tanya muttered darkly. I know right, Emmett said triumphantly. Blank, underscore, blank. Edward had been pacing back and forth across his room for an hour now. Tomer. Row was the first day of school and he was as nervous as a porcupine in a balloon factory. Do you really need to be filming this? Edward asked crossly. Yes, this is one of the most pivotal moments of your life. Your first day of school. Well, as a vampire that is. We have to capture your fear. Your anxiety. Your excitement for academics. He pinched the bridge of his nose. Jasper, do you think you could control your wife for 5 minutes? Edward called. I've been trying to for 50 years. It isn't going to happen anytime soon, he replied. What if she doesn't recognize me? What if she does? Alice, what am I going to do? I can't do this. I'm going to mess up. Or not get a word out to her. Or kill her. What if I kill her? What if I lose it as soon as I see her? Wouldn't that be great? Hi Bella, I've missed you so much that I'm going to suck every single drop of blood out of your body. That would be a great reunion. What if Emmett's right and she has found someone else? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Slow down. First of all, what if Emmett's right? Seriously, not going to happen. Alice sat the camera on a tripod and plopped on the bed, pulling Edward to sit next to her. Second, you've seen what I have. This is all going to work out. Your visions can change, he said stubbornly. Well, I have a good feeling about this one. And since I'm always right, there's no need to worry. Alice smiled. Her brother still looked uncertain. Do I need to show you again? She sighed. He smiled sheepishly. It would help. Alice's eyes glazed over and Edward relaxed. Thanks, he said, pulling her into a hug. He eyed the video camera over her head. I'm going to smash that thing someday. Blank, underscore, blank. She hates me. Edward moaned. Why did I ever think this could work? Calm down. I'm sure it wasn't that bad. It was horrible, Rose. I nearly ripped her head off. She must think I'm mental, he sighed. Well, I already knew you're mental, Emmett teased. The point is that I'm sure everything will work out. Right, Alice. Rosalie looked pointedly at her sister. Yup, she said cheerfully. I wish I could talk to her normally, Edward sighed wistfully. I miss her so much. Rosalie wrapped her arm around Edward's shoulders. Tomorrow will be better, she assured him. Blank, underscore, blank. No, you can't wear that shirt with those jeans. Alice sat the video camera on the nightstand and helped her brother pick out his clothes. I don't see why it matters, he muttered. It matters because you want to make a good impression, she said, glaring at him. We don't want her to think you're a slob. Just because my shirt clashes with my socks. Alice huffed. Have I taught you nothing? Edward ruffled Alice's hair and kissed her on the forehead as he walked out the door. Blank, underscore, blank. SOOO. How was the date? Alice pounced when Edward walked through the door. Ah, he's smiling, Rosalie commented. Emmett clapped Edward on the back. So how far did you get? Emmett. The girls shouted in unison. She knows, Edward announced. Jasper zoomed down the stairs and grabbed Edward's shoulders, shaking him. Are you crazy? She's human. She'll get killed. We could get killed. Of all the thoughtless things you could have done, you did this. I didn't need to tell her. She figured it out herself. Edward's voice rose defensively. This is exactly why we shouldn't have risked this. Why? Edward growled. So I couldn't be happy. So I could be miserable for the next 100 years. The Volturi won't stand for this, Jasper warned. Oh, stop getting your boxers in a bunch, Jazz. We can deal with the Volturi. Alice rolled her eyes. Jasper ran out the door, frustrated with his family's carefree attitude. Blank, underscore, blank. Everyone pack what you need and load the jeep now, Carlyle said frantically, contrasting to his always calm demeanor. And only what you need, Alice. Esme said to her daughter. I hate to say I told you so, Jasper said, walking threshold out the door. Edward, are you going to be all right? Alice asked, moving the camera frame to show Edward pacing the room, scrubbing his face with his hands. He looked up in rage. Am I going to be all right? How do you think I am? And will you put that damn video camera down? Why do you have to be filming this? Just let it out, she murmured softly. I just get Bella back, and then this happens. Why can't they leave us alone? What's wrong with one person knowing? What's wrong with that? I love her. Why can't that be enough? She's everything to me. They can't take her away now. A sob broke through his chest. I can't live without her again. I need her. Get yourself together and put on a brave face for her. She can't see you like this, Edward. Alice was rushing around the room gathering things Edward would want to take with him while he sat on the bed, head in his hands. She held the door open. Come on. We need to get going. Blank, underscore, blank. The screen went blank and I knew what I had to do. Jacob or no Jacob, I would walk straight into that castle and get Edward back. I didn't know why he acted the way he did, but it wasn't because he didn't love me. Beep. I flipped my cell open and read the new text. Don't do anything rash. Meet me in the alley that you passed. XX Alice. I darted out of the car and ran as fast as I could to the alleyway behind the fountain and spotted a petite figure hidden in the shadows. Bella. Alice's face lit up as she pulled me into her cool embrace. When I was released from her arms, I got down to business. What's the plan? We make that confused boy come to his senses and go back to Forks to live happily ever after. She stated as if it was the most obvious in the world. Good plan, Allie. Now how do we do it? She grinned deviously. Just leave that to me. I had a bad feeling. Not that I didn't trust Alice, after all, she got me this far. But still, she assured me it wasn't going to last long and that she even saw that it would drive him insane. Maybe shivers were running down my spine, not because I was nervous about Alice's plan but that I was walking through the underground tunnels of the Volturi castle. Apparently Alice had indeed planned ahead and scheduled a meeting with the Volturi and their guard. Arrow has been jealous of Carlisle for quite some time now, Alice informed me as we walked through the main gate into the castle. He's always wanted my talent, and then when he found out about Edward, she laughed. Course he wouldn't need him, since he has his own talent, but it would make it easier if he could hear everyone's thoughts at once instead of a single person's. Edward had told me about Arrow and Marcus's talent. Another shiver ran through me. Alice, Edward saw that the wolves were never a problem. Is that true? Jake said they were pretty pissed, I asked. They were pretty upset, but nothing to be worried about. We can handle those mutts, she sniffed. One of those mutts helped me get here. If it weren't for Jacob I wouldn't have made it, I defended. True, Alice allowed. It made it much more difficult to keep an eye on you though. I could only get glimpses at best until he got shipped off to Forks. Is he all right? I asked desperately. I can't tell you, Bella. I can't see them, remember? She reminded me. So here I am, walking into the hands of my enemies, worried for Jacob, Edward, Alice, and myself. Welcome, Arrow exclaimed with a sinister smile. Hello, Arrow. I'm very pleased to see you. But I actually can to speak to my dear brother, she smiled sweetly. Now I'm going to ask you the nice way and then the not so nice way. Please come home. It's not the same without you, Edward. We all love you and Esme is especially upset. Even Rosalie misses you. Please just come home, Alice begged her brother with her eyes. Edward kept his expression cool and indifferent. Alice took a shaky breath. Bella, yes. Our eyes met and I could tell that this was it. Time to set the plan in action. In the blink of an eye Alice rushed to my side, bit into my neck, and injected her venom into my body. The pain was like hell on earth. It started moving slowing, grudgingly, from my neck and eventually to all parts of me. There was no way to describe the intense pain of the fire coursing through your veins. There pain could compare. I was losing my grip on reality. It wouldn't be much longer before I could no longer focus on my surroundings. The fiery torture would be the only thing on my mind. Why wasn't it over yet? She told me it would be over before it even happened. I realized my eyes were squeezed shut and forced myself to pen them. I must have ended up on the floor. Because everything was at a weird angle. The last thing I saw before fading into the blackness was Edward's stony expression, and a knowing look on Alice's face. Blank, underscore, blank. I can honestly say it could have been a month since the fiasco in the Volturi meeting room and I wouldn't have known. I didn't know where I was. The only sound I had heard for past couple of days was footsteps pacing around the room that they put me in. It was a comforting sound. It made me think of Edward. I kept replaying the scene before I blacked out and the pain was too much. Alice knew he wouldn't save me all along. How could he not, though? He loved me, I couldn't doubt that anymore, and he was adamant that he wanted me to stay human, so why didn't he do anything about it? I heard footsteps, apart from those of the pacer, in the room. Well, did the big, important Volturi guard decide to grace us with his presence? Alice. She sat on the bed, held my hand. It's almost over, she whispered in my ear. What? You can't talk to me. She addressed the pacer. And where have you been all this time? Edward growled. I had to make some last-minute phone calls, she said innocently. That took 3 days. He asked, outraged. What am I supposed to be doing? I'm the one that's been actually helping her in the first place. She shot back. I didn't want this to happen, Alice. You know that. It's better this way, trust me. I did trust you. Look what happened. I was trying to protect her. That's the whole reason we left. She's becoming a soulless demon, just as Rosalie said. You realize that the Volturi will want her. She's powerful, he sighed. Her life has been taken away from her. It'll work out, Alice said confidently. You can come home now, she continued. We can be a family again. And you and Bella can be together no matter what. They won't bother us. She's immortal. If she doesn't want to join them, they won't make her. What about her parents and her friends? She'll never be able to see them again. Edward, deep down you know you're happy, Alice said in a gentle voice. He sighed and sat down on the bed opposite from Alice and stroked my face. Their skin didn't have the icy feel it used to, it was warm to me now. Edward softly pressed his lips to mine and Alice squeezed my hand. I hoped Alice was telling the truth when she said it was almost over. The fire was at its worst, fading away from my limbs and heading straight for my heart, which was beating frantically. The venom was overpowering my blood. My chest burned as the venom overcame my heart. It gave one final stutter and stopped completely. Edward and Alice had both stopped breathing, as did I. I was too afraid to open my eyes. Afraid of what I had become. Was I going to be a monster? Unstoppable and bloodthirsty. Edward wasn't, but he wasn't the average newborn. He had me to worry about. He had to control himself or he would break me. Edward wasn't. He as breakable as my fragile human self was. If I lost it and attacked him, he could take care of himself. But I couldn't think like that. I had to be good like Edward. I opened my eyes and sat up, eyeing the gazing eyes of those around me. The room I was in was just a simple bedroom, but it was filled with beauty. The sun shining in from the open window shined on the dust particles in the air. A crystal vase shimmered and sparkled with colors. The flowers in the vase had red velvety-looking petals. I could hear everyone outside in the busy streets. A distant car horn honking. Children playing. G in the fountain and their mother scolding them. A group of people was downstairs, murmuring, wonder where they were. A door slammed and the screaming started. I could smell the sunshine and the tulips across the room. The musty bed and a lilac tree outside the window. I looked at Alice first, and she gave me a reassuring smile that was so white, a small rainbow glinted off of it. She was so extremely beautiful. Then I looked at Edward. All I could do was stare. His tawny eyes were warm and loving. A small crooked grin played on his face and the sun made his hair a perfect bronze. He was perfect, an angel. I slowly wrapped my arms around him and just as our lips were about to touch he whispered teasingly, "Try not to break me." And we were kissing. It was the most amazing kiss we had ever shared, full of love and passion. I was really trying to be gentle, but if I had hurt him he didn't say anything. I don't think he cared. I could have kissed him forever, but the sound of clapping interrupted us. Arrow was standing in the threshold, smiling mischievously down at us. BPOV. Anger bubbled inside me. It was stupid and reckless, but I just couldn't help myself. I whipped myself around, bared my teeth at Arrow, and crouched into the proper position for lunging. Before I could do anything more irrational, 2 strong arms encircled my waist. Restraining. Quite a fiery one she is, Arrow said matter-of-factly. I didn't like the way he was looking at me. It was possessive. Thank you for your hospitality, but we'll be leaving now, Alice said. Her smile was polite, but her eyes hard. Won't you stay a while longer? Arrow blocked the doorway. We can't, I'm afraid. Bella's father must be worried sick by now. And I'm sure she's thirsty. Edward paused thoughtfully. I believe Alice would like to do some shopping before we leave. Quote, "Oh, yes," Alice agreed wholeheartedly. "Our flight leaves soon and I would love a chance to get some new shoes. Maybe a new handbag as well." She trailed off, mumbling to herself about designers and fashion trends and who knows what else. "Well, I wouldn't want to keep you from your shopping plans. Meet us in the main room before your departure. I'm sure the others would like to see you off." Arrow left, his face not bothering to conceal his smug expression. "He's not going to let us leave, is he?" I already knew the answer to my question. Alice fell on the bed and moaned hopelessly. "No, he's not. He finally has what he has wanted all these years. We're both here, and without our family." Edward gestured between him and Alice. "He'll want you too." He sighed and buried his face in my hair. "Stupid silent mind. We could try to run, but they would find us," Alice said. "Bella could run," Edward mumbled. I took his face in my hands and pulled him down to eye level, holding him there. "I am not leaving you and you are not leaving me. I've went through too much to find you, Mr. Cullen, and whatever happens we are sticking together no matter what you say. We'll figure out a way to get out of this mess. Got it?" His eyes widened, surprised by my mini rant, and I pecked him on the lips and plopped down on the bed by Alice. All-knowing and powerful psychic, I need options, I smiled. Alice beamed back at me, but her smile faded. "Unfortunately, I can't see a way to get out of here." I couldn't believe they were just going to give up. We had to do something. I lay back onto the bed and tried to think up a plan. Arrow would know that Alice and Edward had given up because he would be able to see into their minds. I could play along with that. Of course, Edward always told me I was a terrible liar, but still. If I was so intent on finding a way to break us out of here, why couldn't Alice see anything? Were we really doomed to spend eternity with the Volturi? Couldn't there be something, anything? Of course. "Bella, you must be thirsty. We could go." "Nope, perfectly fine," I said, cutting Edward off. Actually, the burn in my throat was getting worse. I could handle it. There were more important things to think about. I got off the bed and started pacing around the room in a manner that only my boyfriend usually did. There were two paths going the future could take us. One, being us joining the Volturi, the other was us going home. There was a definite way, I was sure of that, Alice just couldn't see it. Something was blocking her vision. "Arrow will see you now," a Volturi guard I had never met announced. He waited until we were right behind him to lead us back to the main room. Once we were done navigating through the tunnels of the Volturi castle, we were greeted by what I thought was the entire guard. It was at least a majority of it. Some of them had angry expressions, some appeared bored, and others were smirking. Jane was furious, but I had no idea why. "Edward, you're still one of us. Come, join your coven," Arrow said, motioning with his hand for Edward to stand with the others. He sighed, gave me a peck on the cheek, and crossed over to the opposite side of the room. "Before you leave," the Volturi leader said to Alice and me, "I will ask you once more. Join us. We would be delighted to make use of your special talents." "We would love to," Alice said, her voice betraying her happy facade. "Excellent," Arrow said, clapping his hands together. "Heidi, get our new members their robes and medallion," Keys ordered bitingly. "The rest of you are dismissed." I waited until they were well out of the room. "Is Jacob okay?" Arrow raised his eyebrows. "My friend, Jacob, the person that came with me," I clarified. "Oh, yes, your human friend. Odd smell he had. He's perfectly fine. Back home, I'm guessing." I nodded my head. "Is it all right if Edward and I go hunting? I'm pretty thirsty." "Of course," Arrow allowed. "Please just wait until the sun goes down." Once the sun set, Edward and I left the Volturi castle and drove the car I came here into the outskirts of town. Then we ran to a small patch of forest and hunted deer. It was pretty simple, instinctual Edward called it, though I ended up with dirt and blood all over my clothes. I drained 4 huge bucks, but the burn wasn't gone, only dimmed. "That's normal," Edward sighed. "I feel kinda sloshy though." He chuckled. "That's normal too, if you drink a lot." I rolled my eyes. "Well, fine, mister. Know it all." He wrapped his arms around my waist and rested his forehead against mine, smiling. My hands fell limp against his chest as I stared into his warm butterscotch-colored eyes. My resolve wavered. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad staying here if Edward was with me. I even had Alice too. I mentally slapped myself. The Volturi were evil. We needed to get back to Forks. Our families were worried about us and we needed to get home to them. We should go, I whispered. If that's what you want. Edward sighed softly, his voice betraying a small amount of hurt. I went on my tiptoes and kissed him softly. I love you. He mirrored the kiss I gave him. I love you too. When we got back to Volterra, Edward and I went to her room to find Alice running around putting clothes in drawers and hanging them in the closet like a mad woman. The whole room was rearranged. There was new furniture and everything. A shiny new baby grand piano was even sitting in the corner. How did you guys get here so fast? She said, stopping to notice us. We been gone for an hour, Edward sighed, looking at his watch. Alice huffed. Well, I had so much time to go shopping. You could have given me some time to get your room ready. You could have always got our room ready first if it was so important, Edward smirked. Alice ignored him. Here, you can change into this. She threw a whole outfit at me, jewelry, shoes, and everything. And you, she said, turning towards Edward, way more furniture in the car and I only have so many hands. Be an amazing person and help me carry it up. Edward rolled his eyes and followed his sister out of the room. I changed as quickly as I could, which was actually quite fast. And took advantage of my alone time. I pulled out my cell phone. I got out of the car when Edward wasn't looking and scrolled through the contacts. They picked up on the first ring. Hello, I don't have much time, I said in a hushed voice. Just be quiet and I'll tell you what I need you to do. Jacob Pav. I should have gone back. What would I do though? I was just kid. Sure, I had awesome wolfy powers, but still, I couldn't do this on my own and the other guys wouldn't help me. I still couldn't believe that those bloodsuckers had their own private jet. Couldn't believe that they had tranquilizer darts handy. Who does that? I didn't even have time to phase before I passed out. Jake, get your lazy butt off the couch and let's get going. Embry called from out the window. I hadn't been doing much the past few days. I was too worried about Bella. What happened after I blacked out? Those damn Italian leeches. The whole reason you were in Italy was to find leeches in the first place. My subconscious said smugly. But those were good leeches. I argued with myself. The Cullens were supposed to be good. They weren't supposed to hurt people. Their leader was a doctor after all. I groaned. Sam was totally pissed that I ran off on that little adventure across the globe. He was also pissed off that I had decided to skip the past 3 meetings he had called since I had been back. I started jogging out of the house along the side of First Beach and into the woods where the pack was meeting. I quickly phased and ran full speed to our meeting place. Wow, the almighty Jacob Black is gracing us with his presence, Leah mocked. Shut your freaking face. I shot back at her. She growled and changed directions, running towards me. I shot back at her. She growled and changed directions, running towards me. You take that back. Make me, princess. Oh, I will. She shot out of the trees and tackled me to the ground. I bit Leah in the leg and she howled in pain. Whoa, guys, cool it, Seth thought. Jake, stop trying to kill Leah for 2 seconds. I have to tell you something. Meet me at the south side of the beach. Seth must have changed back to human because I couldn't hear him anymore. It must be important if I was the only one that could hear it. I kicked Leah away from me and ran as fast as my legs could take me to the edge of the forest. Once I phased, I got to the beach and saw Seth skipping rocks off the pier. Dude, I called out to him. He looked up and ran over to meet me. Your girlfriend called. He punched me in the arm. Why didn't you tell anyone about her? I mean, I guess it's kinda the early stage, but seriously, how did you keep something like that from us? Well, I decided to play along, but I had no idea what this kid was talking about. It's a good thing I was walking by your house when the phone rang. She called to say that she got her number changed and to tell you to call her right away 'cause she missed you. He held up a piece of paper with the phone number written down on it. What the hell? How much did she tell you? I asked, furrowing my brows. She said exactly what I just told you, he said, rolling his eyes. Did she tell you her name? I said, losing my patience. No, but she kinda had this weird accent. Did you meet her online? I have to go, I exclaimed, grabbing the paper out of his hand and sprinting down the road to my house. I burst through the door, grabbed the phone off of the receiver, and dialed as fast as I could without making a mistake. The phone barely rang once before someone picked up. Jacob Black, the person on the other line said as a question. Yeah, thank goodness. I was in my room trying to figure out what I needed to take with me. What was a person supposed to take on a trip like this? I probably wouldn't need much, maybe just a change of clothes and my toothbrush or something. Wait, what was I talking about? I didn't need to look nice for these people. I was just going to In-N-Out. It would be as quick as Tanya had said. I decided to go with just a change of khaki shorts. Everything was set. The plane was leaving in an hour and I was already checked in. So I would just have to show up in time for boarding. How those vamps could get tickets that fast, I would never know. I guess if you had as much money as they did, you could do anything. All I had to do now was convince one of my brothers to go with me. Quill, no, he had Claire. He couldn't leave her. Embry, no, he wouldn't be down with helping bloodsuckers. Anyone else would have a worse opinion than Embry. I could always ask Seth, but the kid was so young. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if something happened to him. Still, he would be upset if he couldn't help out. I made up my mind. Seth would be able to handle himself and I would be there to keep him safe. I just needed to find him. He should be done with the pack meeting I was supposed to go to. Man, Sam was going to be furious. Hopefully they would all be sleeping when I had to go all wolf-tastic. I went over to the Clearwaters and luck must have been on my side this time because sure enough, there he was throwing a baseball against his garage door. Seth, I called to get his attention. Hey Jake, how's the girl? I rolled my eyes. How was I supposed to explain this to him? She's okay, but, Seth, do you want to help me with something? Sure, Seth said enthusiastically as he abandoned his baseball and ran over to meet me. I quickly told him an abridged version of everything that had happened with me and Bella. We didn't have much time before we would have to get on a plane and fly to Wheat could be our doom. Seth was as eager as always to help me out and we were soon boarding the flight to Italy. Seth was bouncing up and down in his chair the whole flight. I think the flight attendant slipped something in his drink when we weren't looking. In some ways, Seth reminded me of one of the Cullens that Bella described to me. Really hyper and way optimistic. This is gonna be so much fun. Sam said that these vamps we're meeting are really mean. Do you think they are mean, Jake? Sam might be kinda biased, but who knows? They could actually be really nice. They are defiantly not nice, Seth. These are the leeches we shouldn't be nice to. They are horrible and didn't even let me phase croquet. RLY before they shot me with a tranquilizer. Yes, that was really bothering me. Stupid Italian leeches. He sat quietly through the rest of the flight after that. When we landed we were greeted by a beautiful with sandy blonde hair and blood-red eyes. It was that Australian vampire. Stephanie, I asked unsure. I forgot if it was her, or Iris that had the red eyes. Yeah, now let's get going. We don't have much time before the sun comes up and I would rather not have to wait another day for you people. She rolled her eyes for our benefit and stated walking expecting us to follow her. I thought Tanya would be here. She's the one that talked to me on the phone. I followed her out of the airport and Seth and I got into the backseat of a small black car. Change of plans, Stephanie answered my question. If one of the Denali clan came, they might suspect something because of their eyes. Same with my sister. That's why I'm here. Do you think this will work? Seth asked, nervousness coloring the tone of his voice. Of course it will. The plan is genius. It'll scar the crap out of Keys and once they all get away, the Volturi won't be able to chase after them cause they are suppos. Ed to be fair and just and all so they will just have to let them get away. She parked in an alleyway and disappeared into the shadows. Before we could wonder what we were supposed to do she was back. It's the perfect time so there's no backing out now. She looked pointedly at Seth. He took a deep breath and out his game face on. Let's do this, I said as confidently as I could manage. BPOV. I was sitting on the bed Alice bought to refurnish Edward and I's room while reading A Complication of Stories by Jane Austen. I was about half through Sense and Sensibility. I had always teased Edward. About how his name was SLD fashioned whenever I would decide to reread it. It's not that I didn't like his name. I loved his name. It was much better than the common, boring, repeated names that people use today, and it suited him. I just liked to tease him. I was doing everything I could to avoid thinking of Jacob. I told Tanya that she couldn't call me or anything because Alice would see and then Arrow would find out. If everything went according to plan, then the Volturi wouldn't suspect a thing. Still, I was worried about him. Bella, love, Alice wants to talk to you about something, Edward said, sitting down next to me and wrapping his arms tightly around me. And how am I supposed to go see her if my boyfriend is keeping me hostage? I asked, laughing. She'll just have to fight me for you, he said confidently. You want to pick a fight with Alice? Good luck. I hope you make it out alive. I was laughed even louder when he jutted his bottom lip out in an over-exaggerated pout. It was just so cute. You have no faith in me. I pecked him on the lips. Of course I do. I just don't want Alice hurting you. What would I do without you? I nuzzled my cheek against his neck. He captured my face in between his hands and kissed me so fiercely my previous worries were a hazy thought in the back of my mind. Heck, my name was a hazy thought in the back of my mind. Being with Edward like this made it so much easier to relax. We weren't restrained by the fact that he could break me in a second anymore. Becoming a vampire had intensified everything just as Edward had told me. My sight, smell, my looks and mind. But what I didn't expect was for my love for Edward being intensified. I thought I had loved him as a human, but that was nothing for what I felt for him now. Someone cleared their throat from the hallway. Leave us alone, Alice, I mumbled, barely breaking away from Edward. Actually, Arrow sent me today that he would have to postpone your appointment for today. Something came up. A meek voice slightly lower than Alice's would be said. I looked up and saw the tan brown-haired girl that lured me here standing awkwardly by the doorway. Bethany, I think. Oh, okay, I said, waving a hand to dismiss her. Sure, it was rude, but we didn't share the fondest of memories together. Besides, she was interrupting something extremely important right now. Edward's body froze abruptly and brow furrowed. No, he said to himself, it can't be. What is it, Alice? He called out to his sister. I know. That's what I wanted to talk to Bella about. She called from her room. And you couldn't bother telling me? He asked. I wanted to talk to her first. She wouldn't freak out as much as you would, Alice pointed out. She isn't a very good judge of danger though. I thought we had established that. He retorted. I'm right here, you know, I reminded them. Edward huffed. It doesn't matter, no. They're already here, so we have to do damage control. Wait, who's here? I asked, catching Edward off guard by the seriousness of my tone. Jacob Black and one of his friends. Some vampire caught them and brought them to the Volturi. Edward rolled his eyes. Edward, Alice, wait, I gasped. They looked at me with confused expressions. I sighed and filled them it. We have to go now. Wait, Alice said, you've obviously thought out this plan a lot, but what about Jacob? How is he going to get out of this? He and Seth are going to change back to human form once we are safely on our way. Tell Arrow that this was a plan to break us out and then they'll let them go. Alice raised an eyebrow. So we're just going to tell the Volturi that this is an escape plan so they can go after us? Edward shook his head. Bella's right, Alice. This can work. The Volturi won't risk their spotless reputation just to go after us. I can't see. Alice growled. We're just going to have to go in blind, sister dear, Edward smirked. Jacob paused. Get a load of these guys. The blonde one looked like he was going to make a run for the door. The other two weren't much better. Then there was that tiny blonde girl with the permanent scowl. I think she was the one that shot me with that dart. I should rip a few limbs off of her just to make a point. Miss Stephanie, she said for the third time. Right, yes, of course, the one in the middle said. Where did you find these monsters? The blonde one on the edge burst out. I found them just lying around in the woods. Stephanie faked an innocent look. Well, thank you for bringing them to us. Of course, Arrow, Stephanie bowed her head and winked at us when they couldn't see. We'll just take them away and you may go along your way, Arrow said awkwardly. Okay, Stephanie said, flashing a breathtaking smile. Then she disappeared out the door. It took about 2 seconds for Seth and me to phase back to our human selves. Here's the plan, I said quickly putting on my shorts. You and your league of underfed emos forget. We were ever here and we won't ruin you perfect in the vampire world, I smirked. They were speechless. What, you don't remember me? Well, just so you know, Bella and the rest of them are on their W. I back to the Americas right as we're speaking. So, what do we do next? I raised an eyebrow at him. We didn't wait for them to answer. Seth and I phased and ran out of that torture chamber as fast as we could all the way to the edge of the city. What do we do now? Seth asked, pacing around in circle. I'm not sure. Maybe this minor detail slipped her mind. Great, we saved their butts, but why don't even have the courtesy to get us a plane ticket back? Someone behind us cleared their throat. Hello, Jacob, Edward Cullen smirked. The one that must be Alice skipped up to us. Calm yourselves down. Here's your tickets and your passports. Now get going so I can see again. Edward and Bella laughed. Thank you, Bella said, giving me and Seth a hug. Now get going, she continued smiling. Alice is getting extremely cranky. This was the first time I had been back in Forks for 6 years. Edward had come with me as far as Port Angeles, but stayed at the hotel. I had to do this myself. I wasn't completely sure that this was going to be a good idea, but Alice reassured me again and again that it would be okay if I didn't stay too long. I walked past a telephone pole and saw it. Missing. Isabella Swan. 5 feet 4 inches 115 pounds, Caucasian, brown hair and eyes. Last seen in Seattle, WA in 2010. Would be 23 years old. Please contact the Forks police station with any information you might have. It then had my last school picture at the bottom. That was the 5th flyer I had seen while in my hometown. Charlie hadn't stopped searching for me since I disappeared, and I doubt he would ever give up hope. That was why I was here. Jacob had told my father that I had went to Seattle with him because I had needed to get away from it all. He said that I didn't tell anyone where I was going because I was afraid that he wouldn't let me go. When we were walking down the streets of Seattle, Jacob got distracted and momentarily lost sight of me, but thought nothing of it. Then, when I didn't show up, he started looking for me. When he finally had given up, he came back to Forks to tell my Charlie what had happened. After a couple of days, he felt horrible and decided to go back and look for me. Seth came with to help him. They finally were called on their cell phones by Sam, who convinced them to come back home. Ingenious cover story. In reality, Sam had no knowledge of what was going on. Jacob and Th were very good at controlling their thought when in wolf form that their pack had to wait until they got home to get the story. Sam was, well, putting it nicely, not very happy with Jake and Seth. Jacob didn't tell much of what happened between the TWF them, but this is what I do know. Jacob and Sam got into a huge argument regarding me, the Cullens, and Jake's current position as second in command. Sam said that Jacob wasn't fit to be second in command, let alone in the pack, but had to be because of his blood. He said Jacob was being irrational and careless to GFF on a manhunt for a bloodsucker, just because he was on the rebound. That made Jake snap. Then he skipped over what happened next, but you can imagine, I'm sure, and told me that he broke off from Sam and formed a pack himself. He was the rightful alpha, with Seth and Leah. His friends Quill and Embry went back and forth, but were mostly in Sam's pack, helping Jacob when he needed it. I didn't understand the rebound part, but Jacob refused to say anything about it. Then I remembered when we were talking in my bedroom and he had tried to comfort me. I know what you're going through. And I just wanna tell you I'm here for you and I'll back you up against my brothers. Why? I asked, perplexed. I told you, I know what you are going through. I let the subject drop. Then, 2 years later, I got a call from him inviting me to his wedding and told me the story. When he first made the change, he broke the rules and told his girlfriend Alicia about it. Because she wasn't his imprint, it was possible that he would leave her one day. She wasn't too happy with that and broke things off with him in case that ever would happen. Jacob was heartbroken. A couple of months after our Italian adventure, she called him and asked if he would see her. Of course he didn't hesitate to say yes. She apologized for acting without thinking and admitted that she truly loved Jake and wanted to be with him no matter what. And, on the off chance that he did imprint in the future, said she would try to move on, but never stop loving him. After, Seth called me and said he was worried about Jake's face freezing into a permanent smile. How dare the Jacob we know and love smile for the rest of his life? They got married right after high school. Edward and I made a brief appearance, but couldn't stay long. Charlie was at the wedding as well. Jacob and Alicia now had a beautiful baby girl and another on the way. If I was being truthful to myself, I didn't want to face Charlie because I was afraid of what his reaction might be. I walked up the step Charlie's house that would always feel like home to me. Non-existent terror threatened to fall. I had missed this place so much. I had missed my dad more. I knocked on He door with 2 quick raps and waited for him to answer the door. Yes, Charlie said, finally answering the door. My first thought of him was that he looked tired, wary. I instantly felt guilty. Charlie Swan. I didn't want to write out "say dad" in case he didn't recognize me. I looked quite a bit different from the picture on the missing flyers posted around town. He looked into my eyes and I saw no amount of recognition in his expression. I continued before he answered me. Could I please speak with you for a moment? I won't take too long. Of course, he said, gesturing for me to come inside. What's this about? He asked after offering me a drink and having me sit on the couch, him on his chair. My name is Melissa Schneider. I'm head of one of the Southern Division of Seattle's police department. I have information regarding your missing daughter. Isabella, am I correct? His eyes lit up at the mention of my name. What do you know? He asked eagerly. I couldn't do this. I know it was for the best, but really, what was the harm of him knowing? No, of course there was harm. Look what happened to me, though I wouldn't have it any other way. Edward and I would have eventually had conversation on the problem of his immortality and my aging. I loved being with Edward. I wish Charlie could know that I was safe. I wish he could stop blaming himself. I wanted him to know that I was happy with Edward and the Cullens. Your daughter. I cleared my throat unnecessarily. Your daughter was found about 3 miles outside of Seattle. Her body was mangled so much that we had to look into dental records to identify her. We didn't contact you sooner because we weren't quite sure it was her and wanted to be certain. His face showed a mix of shock, relief, and then sadness. We're very sorry. If you would like any more information you may call this number. I handed him a card with a number that would direct him to Esme. I knew I was the one that had to talk to Charlie, but I asked her to handle the rest. I turned away without looking at him again, fearing I would break down. Thank you, he choked out. I knew I shouldn't have. I was so stupid and reckless for me to do. But I did anyway. Chief Swan. I whipped back around to face him. He had tears building up in his eyes and I couldn't take it anymore. Dad, please don't cry. He looked up at me questioningly. There was a knock at the door. I went to pen it and saw Edward standing there, a small smile playing along his face. Alice had a vision, he explained as he stepped through the threshold and into my father's living room. Chief Swan. Edward saw Ed holding out his hand. Charlie took it in his and shook it lightly. Anthony Cullen, what are you doing here? He asked, bewildered. Sir, we have something to tell you, Edward began. Do you think that was a very good idea? I asked Edward as we were speeding down the highway back to Port Angeles. The Volturi aren't going to mess with us. They're too afraid we are going to expose them for who they really are. He'll be fine. Aren't you glad there are no more secrets? Edward had told Charlie everything. From him getting into the car crash, to me NNING around the world trying to find him when he left, to Jacob being a hero and helping us escape Italy. He took it pretty well actually, saying it didn't matter as long as I was safe and happy. It made me want to cry. We promised that we would visit soon and Charlie even gave me a goodbye hug, despite knowing what I was. I'm just worried about him I guess, I sighed. He is your father. Of course you are, he smiled at me. I leaned against his shoulder and sighed in contentment. We sat in silence the rest of the way to the nicest hotel Port Angeles had TFFER. Edward had insisted we could find better but I didn't care. It was just a room and we weren't going to sleep anyway. He led me into the room and softly pushed me down on the bed. His lips captured mine and he pulled me up into his lap as he kissed me. If I could freeze time, I would right now. My father was safe and wouldn't be worrying about me anymore. I had a great family and loved the Cullens more than anything. Well, almost anything. Edward. No matter what happened, we would be together, I was sure of that. Pulling back to look into his shining golden eyes, I could only form one thought. If the world came falling down, it wouldn't matter. As long as I had Edward. The end. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to drop your reviews and new story ideas in comment section.